Chapter 1. The Painful Truth and a Change of Heart. Point 1. Valley of the End. The harsh rain that had been falling during the battle had finally stopped. As Naruto lay across from the beaten and bloodied Uchiha, his own wounds were slowly starting to heal as he thought about things. I can't believe that team, bastard, tried to kill me. He thought bitterly. A voice in the back of his mind told him that it would be better if he just killed the arrogant team and be done with it. What surprised him, though, was it wasn't the fox's voice, but his own. As a matter of fact, he couldn't seem to communicate with it at all. Suddenly, his head felt like it was going to burst open as strange memories started to flood his mind. Memory flash. He saw himself as an infant being lifted from a crib by a woman with blonde hair and brown eyes. It was Tsunade. He saw his small hand reach for her nose as he saw the sad expression on her beautiful face. He was handed to a man Naruto recognized as the Yondaime Hokage. "I wish you didn't have to do this," he heard the familiar voice of the Sandaime say in the distance. "Mito, old man, but it's the only way I can save the village." "Good luck, kid," he heard another voice that he recognized as Jiraiya. "Thanks, sensei," the Yondaime said as he sped off with young Naruto towards the battlefield. On the battlefield, the Yondaime looked into his 5-day-old son's eyes and said, "I'm so sorry for what I'm about to do to you, my son. I hope the village will see you as a hero." With that, he placed Naruto on the ground next to his feet, bit his thumb, and ran through hand seals. Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning technique. He yelled and slammed his palm on the ground. All Naruto could see after that was smoke. Suddenly, it cleared and Naruto was far above the ground, cradled in his father's right arm as he drew a seal with more of his blood and placed Naruto down on the ground. Or at least he thought it was the ground. "Gamabunta, lend me your strength," the blonde Kage said as he went through more hand signs. Suddenly, the seal he put on Naruto's stomach started to glow, and he started to cry in pain as the seal started to burn into his skin. All he saw after that was an intense light. The next thing Naruto remembered, he was on a pedestal surrounded by candles crying. In memory flash. He sat up on the ground, drenched in sweat, panting heavily. What the hell was that? He thought. He then looked to his right to see a black cat. Its piercing golden eyes seemed to be looking into his very soul. "What the hell are you looking at?" He spat out, still slightly panting, not really expecting an answer. "A young man with a heavy burden." The feline responded with a deep, aged, and wise voice that sort of reminded him of the third Hokage's. Naruto jumped up, clutching his chest, and wheezed. "You can talk. Wait, are you a summon?" He glared at the cat, wondering if it might be another enemy. "Yes, I can talk. And no, I'm not a summon. My name is Shihoin Yuruchi. We've already met, if you recall." "You can't be Yuruchi-san. You're a cat, and your voice is different," he rasped out, still hurting and weak from the intense battle, reaching for his kunai holster. "Perhaps this will prove to you who I am," she said as she transformed into a beautiful dark-skinned woman with purple hair tied in a high ponytail and golden eyes. "See, it's me, Yuruchi. It's been a while, hasn't it, Naruto?" "Yes, it has. I haven't seen you since you bought me my first bowl of miso ramen." Flashback. A 4-year-old Naruto was crying. He had not slept in days. He was being tormented by a voice deep in his mind and could not tune it out. All of a sudden, he felt a hand on his shoulder. "Are you okay, kid?" a woman asked. "Sniff, sniff, I can't shut the voices out," a young Naruto whimpered. He must mean the 9 tails. Yuruchi thought. "Well, kid, my name's Yuruchi, and I'll show you a trick to shut the voices out, okay?" she exclaimed with a chastire grin. "Sniff, sniff, okay," he said as he took her hand, and she led him to a small ramen stand. As they sat down at the counter, they were greeted by an old man and a girl. "My name is Tuchi, and this is my daughter. I am welcome to Ichiraku Ramen. How may I help you?" "2 bowls of miso ramen for me and my friend here, please," she said, smiling. A few minutes later, the bowls were in front of them. Yuruchi started wolfing down the ramen. When she looked over, though, she noticed that Naruto wasn't eating. "Come on, kid, eat. I promise it will help. You'll like it," she said. Naruto picked up his chopsticks and started slowly eating the ramen. Then, after a few cautious bites, he too started to wolf it down. "You're right, this is good, and it does help," he said happily, as for the first time in days the voices were letting up. Yuruchi leaned over and whispered in his ear, "Remember, ramen shuts them up." Naruto nodded in understanding as they continued to eat. 30 minutes later, Yuruchi and Naruto had left, having just devoured 20 and 15 bowls respectively. You know, kid, I'm about to leave this village. You could come with me if you want. See the world. She said, hoping he would come with him. No. Thanks for the offer, though I promised Sarutobi-san that I would stay and take his job. So Sarutobi has already corrupted the boy. Yoruichi thought. Naruto, things aren't always what they seem. Did you ever stop to think that he may be using you? That you could be so much more than Hokage? Naruto looked at her with fierce determination and declared, no, he wouldn't do that. Just you wait and see, I'll be the best Hokage ever. Then everyone will respect me, you'll see. Believe it. Yoruichi sighed. You know what, kid, I hope you're right, and you will be the best Hokage ever. Although with this village, I highly doubt it. She thought as she saw the villagers glare at him. Remember, Naruto, no matter what they throw at you, always take it with a smile. It'll piss them off, she said with a cheesy grin. Naruto nodded back, giving a cheesy grin of his own. With that, she waved goodbye as she left for the gates of Konoha, so much like his mother. In flashback, I have come to ask you to help lead a battle against demons, as well as an organization of S-class nuke called the Akatsuki. Yeah, I ran into two of them a little while ago, Sharkface and Tim's older brother. Naruto said as he pointed his thumb over his shoulder behind him towards Sasuke. You mean the boy over there you were thinking of killing? She interrupted. Hi. Wait, how did you know I was thinking of killing Sasuke? Can you read thoughts? He asked. No, Yoruichi said. I don't have to, it was written all over your face. Oh, after all these years, what makes you think I'd fight for your cause? How do I know you're not just using me like the village? Because you have always had a good heart, but it's wasted on that ungrateful village. You can't help but help people in need. You could do so much good, and technically I am using you. I need you to help save this world and put things right. At least I'm honest about my intentions, unlike your so-called precious people back in Konoha. Look, Naruto, your memories are coming back. The suppression seal they put on you is weakening. Search your memories. When you get back to the village, you'll see. Just then, they felt two chakra signatures headed their way at a very fast rate. Naruto could tell it was Kakashi, and to his surprise, Gaara. Then, all of a sudden, Yoruichi changed back into her cat form and prepared to leave when she looked back and said, Look, I know it's a lot to take, and I'll find you later and tell you more. With that, she ran off, leaving him behind to think over what she said. A minute later, Kakashi and Gaara arrived on the scene. Kakashi was in awe at the destruction that littered the valley. As soon as Kakashi came out of his musings, he ran over to Sasuke to check and see if he was still alive. Figures he'd go to check on Sasuke first, team. Don't worry, your precious Uchiha is still alive. Barely. Naruto spat. Naruto, are you alright? Kakashi asked. As if you care. Naruto spat. What's that supposed to mean? Ignoring Kakashi, Naruto turned to Gaara and said, Gaara, want to help me back to the village? I need to recover. Gaara walked over, and Naruto leaned on him for support as they started to head back towards the village. You know, Sensei, you should get him to the hospital before he dies, Naruto suggested. Just then, Kakashi picked up Sasuke and dashed toward the village to get him treated. Why are you so hostile toward your sensei? Gaara asked. It's a long story, I really don't want to talk about it, Naruto replied. Just outside Konoha, Kakashi was carrying an injured Sasuke in his arms when he was intercepted by two medic and an ANBU. Sasuke needs medical attention fast, Kakashi says to the male medic as they pick up speed. What of the Uzumaki? The cat-masked ANBU asks. Kakashi slightly grits his teeth at the ANBU's insult. Naruto is heading back with Gaara. They should be here later. The other members of the recovery team are getting emergency treatment. Shikamaru and Kiba only had minor injuries, but things don't look good for Neji. Choji looks like he'll pull through, but they're not sure. The female medic reports. In emergency room 4, Shizune and several other medic have been performing surgery on Neji for nearly 3 hours, stitching his wounds closed using his hair and a lot of their chakra. Meanwhile, Shikamaru was sitting inside the waiting room listening to Temari lecture him about how combat is different than training. Getting slightly irritated, he gets up to go to the other side of the room. Are you afraid of being hurt? She asks as he walks away. His dad, who was standing in a nearby hallway, said to him, You're a spineless coward. Even if you run away and quit now, your friends will just be assigned a new leader. Then they might all die. But if your friends mean anything to you, you should use this as a learning experience so this won't happen again. Shizune exits the emergency room. Niji's in stable condition, and it looks like Choji will pull through, and ANBU suddenly appears and hands her a note. Kakashi has just returned with Sasuke, Tsunade is currently operating on him. Naruto and Gaara are headed back to the village. Hearing this, Temari got up to leave to go greet her brother and Naruto at the gate. XXXXXXXXXXX Konoha main gate 15 minutes later XXXXXXXXXX. Gaara was walking through the gates with the injured Naruto as Temari, Sakura, Ino, Hinata, Sarutobi, and Kankuro greeted them. "Wow Naruto, you look like shit," Kankuro said. Temari hit him on the head with her battle fan. "Ow," he whined as he rubbed his bruised head. "Come on Gaara, help me to my apartment," Naruto said. He paused when he heard the third yell out, "Naruto, you need to go to the hospital." "I'll be fine Sandaime-sama, I just need some rest," he said coldly. Sarutobi was slightly taken aback by the coldness of his reply. "Naruto, you baka, idiot, you need to see a doctor." Sakura yelled, worried about her teammate. "Yeah Naruto, go to the hospital," Ino said in agreement. "Damn it, I brought your damn Uchiha back, isn't that enough for you people? Just leave me alone," he yelled, shocking everyone. He sighed heavily. "I'll be fine, just let me be," he said softly as he leaned on Gaara as they continued on to his apartment, followed by Temari and Kankuro. When they reached Naruto's rundown apartment, he opened the door and Gaara helped him to his futon, where he laid down with a heavy groan. "Wow Naruto, your apartment looks trashed," Kankuro said as he looked at all the graffiti on the walls. "Yeah, just the damn villagers having fun tormenting their favorite whipping boy," Naruto said with a sigh. Temari was reading some of the graffiti. "Die demon scum, rot in hell QB brat, someone should finish you off QB," were some of the things written on his wall. As Temari read them, she became more and more angry. "I can't believe they treat you like this," she spat. "You get used to it." "Kankuro, can you go to the bathroom medicine cabinet and get me some bandages?" Naruto asked. "Sure thing," he replied. A minute later, he came back with several rolls of bandages and some towels. Temari walked over and helped take off Naruto's jacket and shirt. "Wow, you sure you don't want to go to the hospital?" she said as she looked at the still slightly bleeding wounds on his chest and shoulders as she used a towel to clean the wound and started to wrap the bandages around Naruto's torso as he groaned a little from the pain. "They're all done. We should probably head back to our village. Will you be all right, Naruto?" Temari asked. "Yeah. Thanks guys, I'll be fine. I just need some rest," the blonde ninja replied weakly. With that, the Sand siblings got up to leave. When the door shut, Naruto rested his head on a pillow, hoping to get some sleep. A few minutes later, he heard a knock on his door. "What the hell is it now?" Naruto spat. "It's Sarutobi, may I come in?" "You can do whatever you want, Sandaime-sama." The third slowly entered Naruto's apartment and noticed the graffiti and sighed as he took a chair from Naruto's kitchen and sat down next to the young genin. "So Naruto, I see the Sunanin helped you get bandaged up. Why did you refuse to go to the hospital and get fixed up?" "I already told you I'll be fine on my own. I don't need anything from you or this damned village," Naruto spat. "What's with all the hostility, Naruto? I've never known you to act like this before," Sarutobi asked, concerned for the boy. "Tell me something, Sandaime-sama. How come you never told me my father was the Yondaime?" "Naruto, why? Save it, Sarutobi. All this time you knew. You fucking knew, all of you, and none of you told me," Naruto bellowed. "I suppose you also knew about the suppression seal. All those years of struggling at the academy, always being behind everyone else, all because of that suppression seal you and Jiraiya put on me, and you knew," he hissed. "It was for the best, Naruto. If anyone had found out that you were Minato's son, his enemies would have come after you," the Sandaime said. "Bullshit. Look at my walls, you old fool, look at them. Beaten on an almost weekly basis, and you think that it was for the best? Fuck you, old man. Just get the hell out and leave me alone." "Naruto, I said get the hell out." With that, Sarutobi got up and left as a small tear ran down his aged cheek. "Wow, so you're finally waking up to what I told you all those years ago," Yoruchi said as she jumped up on the chair the Sandaime had just been sitting on. "What are you doing in my apartment?" Naruto asked, slightly narrowing his eyes at the intrusion. Yoruchi turned into her human form and looked into his eyes. "Tell me, Naruto, how much do you know about your mother?" Naruto's eyes widened. "Nothing, why?" "Well, let me tell you a little about her and where we came from. You see, her name was Uzumaki Kushina, and she along with Shiba Kakaku were my best friends." Chapter 2. The painful truth, and a change of heart. Point 2. Konoha Naruto's apartment. You see, Naruto, I'm not a normal shinobi, I am a shinigami. Well, I was once. You see, I'm a fallen shinigami, as was your mother. We were exiled. She frowned as she said the last part. Flashback. They stood there shackled, their Ryatsu, spirit energy, having been bound in the center of the central 46 chambers, which was made up of 40 wise men and women with 6 judges slightly elevated above the rest. Jinyu Yamamoto Shigekuni, 1st Division Captain, and General of the Goti 13 stood before them holding a scroll. Then opening it, he read the verdict. Shihun Yoruchi, Commander of the Special Forces. Uzumaki Kushina, Captain of the 9th Division. For helping Shiba Kakaku and her brothers escape, justice, you are hereby banned. Justice? You mean genocide, don't you? Yoruchi snarled. Silence. Yamamoto bellowed. Careful, Yoruchi, you're already in enough trouble. Your father would be so very disappointed that his daughter, the first female head of the Shuin family in its 22-generation history. He trailed off, shaking his head in disappointment. One of the 4 great noble houses, and you've single-handedly brought it to ruin. Yoruchi clenched her fists in anger. He would be even more disappointed to know the Central 46 had ordered the destruction of an innocent family to cover up their own crimes, she thought bitterly. Now, as I was saying, the Central 46 has ordered your banishment from not only Siriidii, Court of Pure Souls, but also all of Soul Society. You will be banished to the mortal world. Should you die, you are to be damned to the pits of hell, never to return. In flashback. So you and my mom were exiled for helping your friend? Naruto asked. Yes, we were. Yoruchi replied bitterly as she clenched her fists. For the first 100 or so years, we wandered aimlessly through the shinobi world, doing odd missions for villages here and there. When we finally decided to settle down, we became ninja for the land of Whirlpool, where we found our friend Kikaku and her remaining brother Ganju. So what happened in Whirlpool? He asked. We had a good life in the village. We got reacquainted with Kikaku and made friends with the villagers. She smiled sadly. You would have loved your mom. She was always such a tomboy and loved to pull pranks. Yoruchi stood up and walked to the window to look out at the village, her voice becoming shaky as a tear slowly fell down her mocha-colored cheek. Unfortunately, the good times we had in Whirlpool weren't meant to last. I should have known they would come for us eventually. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Flashback. Yoruchi, Kakaku, and the 4 shinobi with them were headed back to the village, having just completed a mission, when they saw billowy black smoke in the distance from the path they were on. They all took off running, worried about their home. When they got to the destroyed gates of the village, they stopped, horrified by what they saw. There were bodies everywhere, and the buildings lay in ruin. They spotted the enemy ninja dressed all in black. Yoruchi and Kakaku instantly recognized them as the Special Forces. Dashing at the enemy they proceeded to decimate their numbers with a combination of speed strikes and pressure points. But unlike their comrades, Yoruchi and Kakaku used Keto spells as well. Show. Thrust. Yoruchi yelled, pushing an enemy away from her. Then following up, she yelled, Hand. Abolishing flames. A blast of purple spiritual energy incinerated the on impact. Meanwhile, Kakaku yelled, Shikaho. Shot of red fire, shooting a ball of red energy at her target, killing him. The group slowly fought their way through 50 or 60 enemy until they got to the center of the village, where they came face to face with the leader of the destruction, a petite Chinese woman with short black hair and 2 long pigtails wrapped in white bandages with gold loops on the end. Soifun, let him go. Yoruchi hissed as she saw her petite form holding Kakaku's bloodied brother Ganju. It's been a while, hasn't it, Yoruchi-sama? She said mockingly as she let him go, barely alive. I wonder if Kakaku's as easy to provoke as she used to be? Soifun thought. Must be careful after all. Rukongi, wandering Soul City, a poor town where Kakaku and her brothers had to hide out. Vermin are so delicate, she said, looking at Kakaku as Ganju tried to crawl away. Soifun lifted her leg and drove it down with such force on his back that you could hear the audible crack as his spine was completely severed. Whoops, damn, Vermin broke, she yelled mockingly as Yoruchi looked on in horror. That ought to do it, she thought amusedly. Kakaku trembled with rage. Murderer, Kakaku whispered. You damned murderer, Kakaku screamed as she pulled the wakizashi sidearm. She wore horizontally on her lower back and charged Soifun, tears streaming down her face. Kakaku don't. Yoruchi yelled to her friend, trying to stop her. Soifin sneered. Kuro Hitsuji, black coffin, she hissed. Suddenly a box of black energy surrounded Kakaku, piercing her with dozens of energy spears lacerating her from head to toe. Inside you cold hear her scream. Then the box disappeared, and her bloody body fell lifelessly to the ground in a pool of her own blood. No! Yoruchi screamed as she watched one of her closest friends die. She was about to run over to her friend's core when Soifin pulled out her kodachi, short sword, and tapped it on the ground, and 30 more nin showed up. Then a kunoichi grabbed her shoulder. Yoruchi-sama, we're almost out of chakra, and you're running low on ryatsu. You have to get out of here. We can't win this, she said sadly. She was reluctant to leave. Yoruchi-sama, go, the kunoichi yelled. Yoruchi nodded in acknowledgement and took off to the forests that surrounded the village. When the kunoichi turned around, she took a fighting stance along with the other three, but she was taken aback as Soifin just smirked at them. Then she blurred out of existence. In literally the blink of an eye, her comrades were on the ground, blood everywhere, their faces frozen in various stages of horror. Pathetic, Soifin snarled, bringing her right leg up, kicking the kunoichi in the face. Her chin flew back as she fell to the ground from the force of the savage kick. Then Soifin brought her leg down, slamming her foot into the kunoichi's chest, causing blood to fly out of her mouth. Soifin looked down at the woman, contempt shone in her eyes. To think my former mistress living among such worthless vermin. Go to hell, the kunoichi rasped out through gritted teeth covered in her own blood. Soifin's eyes narrowed. Not before you, she hissed as she forced her foot down harder, twisting it. She heard an audible crack as she broke the kunoichi's ribs. Looking up in the direction in which her former mistress had fled, Soifin screamed to her subordinates. What are you fools waiting for? Go after her. They all bowed and took off after their former commander. Time to finish this, Soifin whispered as she also gave chase. In flashback, I had managed to kill the remaining ninja and stood face to face with my old pupil. Flashback. Yoruchi stood across from Soifin high above the ground on top of the trees. Soifin looked at her former mistress with hatred and contempt. Wow, it seems the special forces have gotten a lot weaker under your command, Yoruchi said as she looked at their dead bodies scattered everywhere on the forest floor below. Soifin smirked coldly. It's a shame what happened to Kakaku and her 4 brothers. You know, I had fun personally exterminating each one of those vermin. Yoruchi smiled, that damn chastire smile that Soifin hated. You know, Soifin, you sure are talkative today. Is it because you're so nervous seeing your old mistress? Soifin frowned. Don't get so cocky, Yoruchi. I have far surpassed you, and the filthy vermin you turned your back on me for. Soifin. Shut up, Yoruchi. You were my mistress. I respected you, loved you, and what do? You abandoned me for that trash. Yoruchi narrowed her eyes at her friends being called trash. They're not trash, Soifin. They're good people who were used and thrown away by the Central 46 Chambers and then ordered to be exterminated. I don't care about your damned excuses or anything else. I will kill you, then find that bitch Kushina and tear her apart. Soifin snarled as she rushed at Yoruchi at incredible speed and threw a savage spin kick toward Yoruchi's head, but she blocked it with her left arm, then threw a right uppercut towards the Chinese woman's head. They fought in a blur, their punches and kicks were too fast to be seen with the human eye as they finally stopped and landed back on opposite branches. One hit apiece, Soifin said, looking at the bruise on her shoulder. Looks like the last fight ended in a draw, Soifin said. Yeah, Yoruchi smirked, wiping blood from her mouth. Not bad, little B, but you still can't beat me. Is that what you think? Soifin sneered suddenly from behind Yoruchi with her kodachi, short sword, drawn to Yoruchi's neck, bringing her left arm around, touching the blade. Jinteki Shakusetsu, sting all enemies to death, Soifin whispered in the other woman's ear as the blade shrunk into a gauntlet with a stinger on her middle finger. Yoruchi tried to blur out of existence, but was slashed by the stinger. Running away, bitch, Soifin mocked. Why don't you just admit I'm your superior? I am stronger and better than you. What, it didn't cross your mind that I might have been holding back? No, of course not. That's not possible. Not against the great Yoruchi-sama. Know this before you die. You will learn your place. Yoruchi looked up at Soifin, hatred in her golden eyes as she clutched her stomach. Her eyes widened as a butterfly-shaped mark appeared. You feel its effects, don't you? That was the first strike. When the target is hit in the same place twice, no matter who they are, they will suffer certain death. Soifin blurred out of existence, slashing Yuruchi's back. I will make you suffer. Yuruchi took off through the trees, trying to get away from Soifin. The Chinese woman smiled sadistically and yelled behind her, "That's it, run, bitch. Run like a coward." They could hear the waterfall as they were reaching the edge of the forest. Suddenly, Yuruchi grabbed onto a branch and kicked her leg back, sending two sharp knives flying at Soifin's head, which she blocked just in time to get kicked in the face by Yuruchi as she forced Soifin to the ground. Getting up from the ground slowly, Soifin snarled, "Damn you, bitch. You will pay for that." The dark-skinned woman stood across from her former pupil, panting, cut up, and bleeding all over, barely able to stand. "I was just going to kill you with my stinger, but I think I'll show you how much I have grown without you by killing you with my new technique instead." The Chinese woman smirked as white lightning snaked around her body. Impressed? "This is a technique I've worked on for a while now." She narrowed her eyes. "You should feel honored to be its first victim. It doesn't even have a name yet." "It has a name," Yuruchi said as she started to stand up straight. "What did you say?" Soifin hissed. "Its name is Shunko," Flash cried. Yuruchi held out her left arm, and a spark came out of her fist as she slowly lifted her head and glared at the petite woman. "You know, Soifin, you're a vicious little bitch." Yuruchi snarled as lightning shot from her back and completely destroyed her jacket, as well as the ground around her. "I wasn't going to use this against you, but I think it's time I taught you a lesson," she hissed as she pointed her left arm, palm out at Soifin. "I'll be damned if I lose to this bitch," Soifin thought as she pointed her right arm, palm out at Yuruchi. Suddenly, they shot the lightning at one another. The sheer power and destructive force incinerated a huge chunk of the forest and sent both women flying backwards. Unfortunately for Yuruchi, her back was facing the cliff as she fell into the rapids below. In flashback, when I finally came to, I was in a small house a few miles away. My wounds were being tended to by a Shinto priestess and seal mistress named Kikyo. "Sounds like you used up one of your 9 lives," Naruto joked. Yeah, whatever." Yuruchi rolled her eyes. "Anyway, I had found out that she had found me on the water's edge and brought me to her home. I had been unconscious for at least 2 weeks. I tried to get up to go back to the village, but I couldn't. She said I was still injured and I needed to stay for at least 2 to 3 more weeks. When I finally recovered, I thanked her and left for the village, but I wasn't able to find any survivors. Over the next 12 or so years, I went from village to village looking for your mom with no luck. Then one day I got a lead that she may be in Konoha, so I came here only to find out she had been dead for 4 years, and the QB had been sealed into her son. I followed you around for a while, taking care of some of the assassination attempts against you. Then I found out my old pupil might still be alive. So you left to go search for her. What I don't get is why didn't you take me with you?" Naruto asked. "I tried to get you to come with me, remember? But Sarutobi had you convinced that you were going to be Hokage." "Yeah. In hindsight, I wish now that I would have taken you up on your offer," he said bitterly, thinking about how his life in Konoha turned out. Konoha Tsunade's office. Tsunade sat heavily in her chair and sighed, looking at the 2 men in front of her. She was wondering what was so important that she couldn't go to Naruto's apartment to drag him to the hospital. Flashback. "What the hell do you mean the Gaki refuses to come to the hospital?" Tsunade yelled. "Calm down, Tsunade-sama," Shizen said. "No, I will not. What does that baka think he's doing? He could be seriously hurt. I'll go drag him here myself." "No, Tsunade, that can wait. I need to discuss something urgent with you first." What could be more urgent than getting Naruto to the hosp dash? She was silenced by her old sensei's glare. In flashback. "What do you mean Naruto knows who his parents were?" the Godame yelled. The Sandame looked at her with regret. "It seems that in his fight with Sasuke, the suppression seal I had Jiraiya place on him was broken, and his early memories came back." "Suppression seal? What suppression seal?" Tsunade asked. Jiraiya sighed heavily. "It was a year after you and Shizune had left the village. Naruto was advancing at an incredible rate, and we were afraid of what the council might do if they knew he was so advanced, so we came up with a seal that would slow his learning. Unfortunately, it not only did that, but it also stunted his mental capacity, making him struggle to learn anything except when he's in extreme emotional distress. So his grades at the academy and his failing the exam twice was a result of the seal you placed on him. That still doesn't explain how he knows who his parents were." He has a photographic memory. He probably remembers the day of the sealing. Sarutobi said. Tsunade looked at him in shock. Is he really that advanced? She thought. We should probably talk to the Gaki. Jiraiya said. I already tried. He was so angry. I think we should give him a couple of days. I agree, we'll give him a few days, and we'll talk to him then. The blonde Kage said. Oh Naruto, I hope you're alright. She thought looking out the window. XXXXXXXXXXX Orochimaru's underground base in Otoge-Cure XXXXXXXXXX. The mission was a failure? Explain, he hissed dangerously. Hi, Orochimaru-sama. Kabuto said fearfully. It seems the QB brat managed to defeat Sasuke, and the Sound Four were eliminated by the rest of the recovery team. Our spies in Konoha tell me that Sasuke was brought back severely wounded, but Tsunade managed to heal him. I cannot believe the QB brat got in the way of another of my plans. He's become quite the thorn in my side, just like Minato was. He mumbled. Kabuto, we need to think of another plan to get the Uchiha brat. I want that damn Sharingan. How have the experiments progressed? We have good news, Orochimaru-sama. We were able to add another year before you'll need to switch bodies. With more study of the Shurkan Jewel Shard, we should be able to add more. Will I be able to use it with the container I've chosen as a backup since I didn't get Sasuke-kun? Hi, Kabuto responded. Good, now I have 4 years, instead of 3 to plan coup. Coup. What neither of them noticed was a red-haired, red-eyed teen with black-rimmed glasses was listening to their conversation. I have to send a message to Soifun-sama, she thought as she left. Chapter 3. The Painful Truth and a Change of Heart. Point 3. XXXXXXXXXXX Tsum no Kuni, Land of Claw. XXXXXXXXXX. Soifun was currently walking among the sakura trees that littered the estate grounds. She both loved and hated the feelings and memories they brought up in her. The times back in Sirieti, Court of Pure Souls, when she was happy training with Yoruchi, and the promise she made as her mistress had laid her head on her lap under the light of the full moon. I will always be by your side to protect you, Yusama, always. Ya little bee, it's a promise. But that was all just a lie. Why wasn't I good enough? Why were Kakaku, her brothers, and Kushina worth so much that you would destroy your clan as well as my clan's honor, and abandon the special forces, and me? It seems that nothing can free her from the pain of what Yoruchi did to her all those years ago. Not even Kushina's death all those years ago. Flashback. Soifun stood behind the dark priestess Tsubaki, flanked by Lust and Sloth as they stood outside an ancient tower just inside of Fire Country that lay decaying, falling apart, all but forgotten. But it wasn't just any tower, it was a tower that held the most powerful of the Biju-tailed beasts, Kyubi no Kitsune, a beast of legend said to have been sealed away into a powerful slumber more than 500 years ago. What the hell is taking so long? Lust blurted out in frustration. Just be patient, it will be open soon. Tsubaki spat in annoyance. How are we supposed to control it once it's free? Sloth asked. Simple, we're not. Soifun spat. What do you mean we're not? Lust yelled, fearing what it may do to them. It's simple, really. The Biju are forces of nature. You can't control them unless they're sealed into a host. All we have to do is let the demon loose and let it ravage Fire Country. It will keep going on its rampage until it reaches our target. The Chinese woman replied. Suddenly Tsubaki's eyes snapped open. Open, demonic gate. Come forth, Dark Lord. Awaken and exact your revenge, she yelled. The doors flew open and a demonic chakra crept out. It was ancient and malevolent. It was the Lord of the Biju. Just as the demonic energy started to take shape, Soifun performed a one-handed seal, and the 4 women disappeared into a swirling black vortex that opened up behind them. Over the next 2 days, the demon would ravage Fire Country. The feudal lord sent samurai and archers to try and stop it, but it was no use, it was just too powerful. XXXXXXXXXXX Konoha Gakure, Hospital XXXXXXXXXX. It had been almost 2 days since Kushina had given birth to Naruto. She was still weak from the complications of labor. Suddenly, she opened her eyes as she felt something jump on her stomach. Who are you? She asked weakly. Oh, Kushina-chan, I'm so disappointed that you don't remember me. I'm the one you and the rest of that vermin stole my mistress Yoruchi from. Soifun, Kushina gasped. The Chinese woman narrowed her eyes. So you do remember me? I've spent a lot of time traveling the shinobi world tracking you down. Imagine my surprise when I found out not only were you engaged to the Hokage, but you were also pregnant. You were the one who destroyed Whirlpool and killed Kakaku and Yuruchi? She hissed. Yes, I did kill Kakaku and her brothers, but Yuruchi is very much alive. But don't worry, she'll be dead as soon as I find her. Soifin said with a smirk. That's impossible. I saw the destruction. I searched for survivors and never found her. She's still alive. Kushina whispered the last part. Soifin's eyes filled with mirth. Yes, she is, and to think you gave up on her so easily. Kushina's eyes filled with hatred as she looked up into Soifin's eyes and spat in her face. Soifin wiped the spit off her face and stabbed Kushina with her stinger. Now Kushina, that wasn't very nice, she said as she watched the butterfly mark appear. Soifin watched as the poison started to take effect. Surely you've heard about the demon that's been attacking Fire Country, the one that no one seems to be able to stop. Kushina glared at the petite woman that was straddled on top of her. The Chinese woman pulled out a scroll. Tell me, Kushina, do you know what this is? That's the scroll of the Shiki Fujin, dead consuming demon seal. Why, yes it is, and it will mysteriously find its way into your fiancé's scroll library. You do realize that to perform the Shiki Fujin, he will need an infant. Soifin smirked. And how many infants have been born lately? Kushina's eyes widened. Naruto-kun, no, I won't allow him to use my son. Very good, Kushina-chan, but you won't be alive to object, Soifin said coldly. Anyway, do you know what happens to the mortal that performs it? Kushina gasped. Minato-kun, no. Yes, but that's not all. It doesn't just summon any Shinigami, it summons the captain of the first squad and general of the Godiya, 13 Shigekuni Yamamoto himself. When he tries to preform the Shiki Fujin, he won't know the boy is part Shinigami. Final question: what happens when a Shinigami tries to fuse a demon with another Shinigami? The souls of the summoner and Shinigami he summoned are violently mixed and explode, destroying both. The bright light Naruto saw when he had the memory flash. Good, and as you know, Yamamoto was the only one keeping the separate factions of the Godiya, 13 from entering a civil war, and without him Siriadii, Court of Pure Souls, will tear itself apart, and that destruction will eventually spread to the rest of Soul Society. Soifin calmly explained. But it doesn't make sense. Why would you want to see the Godiya 13 destroyed? Tell me something. What did you think would happen when Yuruchi was exiled? The Central 46 decided, since the Fan family was a minor clan once loyal to the Shuhan family, that we were a possible threat and had us split from the rest of the special forces and tried to eliminate us. But why have a demon sealed into my son? That's quite simple. When that boy reaches 18, he'll completely merge with it. Do the math. Powerful human plus Shinigami plus QB equals. Oh no, Kushina gasped. Yes, an almost unstoppable weapon that I will wield. I plan on letting the boy suffer as a Jinchuriki in this pathetic village. He will slowly grow spiteful and hateful. Like you, Kushina snarled. Soifin glared at her. You helped make me this way, so I'll return the favor. Anyway, I'll come to rescue him and gain his trust by telling him about his dear mother, and together we'll bring order to Soul Society, and then when he's outlived his usefulness, I'll eliminate him. Please, Soifin, don't do this. I'm begging you, don't do this to my family, Kushina pleaded. Soifin narrowed her eyes as she continued to look down on the woman. Pathetic, I expected more from you. She then plunged her stinger into the same spot she had hit before. Naruto-kun, Minato-kun no. The red-haired woman said with great sadness as she died, heartbroken in her hospital bed as she thought of what would become of her family. Soifin slowly got up once the butterfly marks receded along with the blood, and the wounds healed, signifying Kushina's death. She then performed a one-handed seal, and a black vortex opened. Now to find Yuruchi, she said as she vanished into it. When morning came, a nurse walked in to discover Kushina had died during the night, and without any evidence to the contrary, it was declared she died from complications of childbirth. In flashback, Soifin was brought out of her memories when she noticed a black crow came out of a black vortex that opened in the sky. What's this, a message from Karen? She's not supposed to report unless it's an emergency, she thought. Taking the scroll out of the pouch on the raven's back, she began to read it. So Naruto beat an Uchiha, did he? Impressive, she said to herself, but her eyes narrowed as she read the next part. What? Orochimaru has a Shurikon jewel shard. With that, she went to have a talk with Tsubaki. XXXXXXXXXX Konoha 3 days after Naruto, and the recovery teams return XXXXXXXXXX. With Yaruchi's help, Naruto was healing at a rapid pace. He would be able to travel in a couple of days. After his display when he had returned from the mission, no one had bothered him, which had given him plenty of time to think things over. He came to a very sad conclusion. The Leaf Village and its people simply weren't worth fighting for. Suddenly, Naruto was taken out of his thoughts as Yaruchi came through the window, then changed into her human form. "Well, Naruto, I have a way you can leave the village whether they want to let you or not," she said. "How's that possible? I didn't think you could just resign and leave." "It's quite simple. I did some research and found out that all you need is to have completed one SS-ranked mission." "Well, that's all well and good, but I haven't had an SS-ranked mission." Yaruchi let out an exasperated sigh. "I thought you were supposed to be getting smarter after that seal had been destroyed." Naruto simply chose to glare at her, but said nothing. "Look, Gaki, you have completed an SS-ranked mission. What do you think they classify the mission to retrieve Tsunade as?" "Wait, Jiraiya told me the mission was only S-ranked. That team owes me some money," Naruto growled. "Who cares? At least you can finally get out of this damn village and not worry about Hunter Neen." "Yeah, well, that's all well and good, but who's to say Tsunade, Sarutobi, and Jiraiya can even be trusted to let me leave? I mean, they're not exactly the most trustworthy bunch." Yaruchi grinned. "Easy with this," she said happily as she threw a scroll to Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened in shock as he read it. This is... "Yep, seems your father left you a scroll as proof you were his child. I took some of your blood after helping you heal a little more, and changing your bandages, and used it to open a hidden safe in the Hokage's office. Turns out it was hidden behind his picture." "How did you know where it was?" "I was once the leader of the special forces. I know how to sneak in and out of places without being detected. I had been shadowing Sarutobi before you went on your mission to retrieve Tsunade. He opened that safe a few times, but I wasn't able to. Turns out I needed your blood." "How is this going to help again?" "First thing I have to teach you is always have a backup plan. If they won't let you leave even if you can legally, then tell Sarutobi to check your father's safe. If they ask you where it is, tell them that it's somewhere safe, and if they won't let you go, then you'll send it with a sample of your blood to the Fire Lord, and say you'd love to see how he feels about the way his nephew was treated." "Nice. I'll just go to Tsunade's office and resign now," he said. "No, if I know how they think, and I think I do, they will call for you. All you have to do is be patient." The next day, an ANBU appeared in his apartment and stared for a second at the black cat that was next to Naruto on his couch. "Hokage-sama wishes to see you, demon," he spat before vanishing in a cloud of smoke. "God, I can't wait to get away from these dumb-ass bigots," he said to the feline. "Just remember what we discussed about how to handle the meeting, Naruto." He saluted mockingly and then left for the meeting. "Yup, just like his mother," she said amusedly, remembering her friend. XXXXXXXXXX Amigay Cure, village hidden in rain. XXXXXXXXXX. Pain was furious as he walked through the Akatsuki base to go look at Zetsu's corpse. He had managed to barely make it back to report. He looked at Konan. "What the hell happened?" he yelled. She looked at him with her usual cold expression. It would appear he was attacked by Demon Neen. "His corpse is all cut up and missing an arm. It looks like he was attacked by a wind user," he said. "You didn't let me finish. He reported before he died that they were led by Kagura," she replied. He clenched his fists in fury. "That demoness bitch," Pain shouted. "What of his ring?" "I would assume that she took it. It seems his Shirkan jewel shard is also gone." "This changes everything. We'll have to change our plans. Tell the other members to return to base. We'll have to resume our hunt for the other Jinchuriki in a few years once we've figured out a strategy for dealing with Kagura and her demon needs," Pain said. "Damn it, not now? I'm so close," he thought as he watched Konan leave. XXXXXXXXXX Udon no Kuni, land of Udon. XXXXXXXXXX. The demoness Kagura sat in the throne room of her castle as her blood-red eyes looked at the Akatsuki ring and the jewel shard she had in her hand. "Once I have gathered all the rings and shards of the Shirkan jewel, I will finally rule this world," she thought as she licked her blood-red lips in anticipation. XXXXXXXXXX Konoha Tsunade's office. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto calmly walked into the office and looked at the three with cold, emotionless eyes. You wanted to see me, Hokage-sama? Naruto asked as he looked at Tsunade sitting behind her desk, flanked by Jiraiya and Sarutobi. Tsunade was saddened by the fact he didn't call her by her nickname, as well as his coldness. Yes, Naruto, please take a seat, she said as she made a gesture with her right hand. Naruto, I wanted to explain about the suppression seal that I had Jiraiya place on you. He was stopped by Naruto's raised hand. That's all right, Sandaime-sama, there's no need to explain. You just didn't want anyone to know that the great Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage, had a demon half-breed for a son, so you placed a seal on me to prevent me from remembering. Naruto, that's not true, Sarutobi said. Naruto, Jiraiya interrupted. How did the seal break? Well, that's simple, Jiraiya-sama. He flinched at the honorific. It happened when my so-called best friend stuck a Chidori through my chest. Naruto remained cold as he saw the shocked expressions on their faces. Naruto, that can't be, you wouldn't have been able to survive, even with Kyuubi, Tsunade said. Oh really? Naruto said, lifting up his shirt to show the scars on his chest. Tell me, Tsunade-sama, you know damn well with my healing rate thanks to the Kyuubi that there's only a handful of jutsu that are strong enough to leave scars on me. Naruto spat as he saw her flinch. Listen, Naruto, his enemies would have come after you and tried to assassinate you, Sarutobi explained. And if the council found out you were so advanced, they may have tried to turn you into a weapon or have you killed, Jiraiya chimed in. Oh, and I suppose it was so much better to let the villagers attack and try to kill me instead? Naruto asked, getting annoyed with their excuses. What about the law I passed? Didn't it help? And what about the money I gave you for housing and food? Sarutobi asked. Gee, you've come to the hospital to see me how many times, Sarutobi-sama, and the only place that would rent to me was a slum. And how good do you think I ate when the only food I could get was old? Naruto asked in return. Thank God for Ichiraka ramen, or I would have starved to death a long time ago, he thought. Naruto, I know you're upset, but you have to understand it was tough on all of us, Tsunade said with sorrowful eyes. Really, Hokage-sama, how long did you suffer? It must have been torture, all those years of getting pissed drunk and gambling, Naruto said sarcastically. Naruto, that's enough, Jiraiya yelled. Look, Naruto, we're all sorry, but the way you're acting is not the way your father would have wanted, Sarutobi said. They were taken aback by the look of sheer fury in the boy's eyes. You know, quite frankly, I don't give a rat's ass what that team, bastard, would want, Naruto bellowed. Naruto, that's no way to talk about your father. After all, you're his legacy, Tsunade said sadly. Let's get one thing straight right here, right now. I'm Uzumaki Kushina's legacy, not his. As far as I'm concerned, I have no love for the team that would throw away his own son to protect a bunch of bigots, he growled. Not wanting to anger Naruto anymore, Tsunade decided to get to the point. Naruto, we have decided that you need to get away from the village for a while. Jiraiya is going to take you on a training trip. You're right, Tsunade-sama, I plan on getting out of this village, but not on a training trip. What do you mean, Naruto? Sarutobi asked, not liking where this was going. Tsunade-sama, I, Uzumaki Naruto, hereby resign my commission as a ninja of Konohagakure effective immediately, he formally announced, making all three gasp. Naruto, you can't just do that, there are rules and regulations, like completing an SS-ranked mission, Sarutobi said. Oh, I'm quite aware, Sarutobi-sama. I've completed an SS-ranked mission, Naruto replied. Really, when? Jiraiya asked. Simple, when I went with you to retrieve Tsunade-sama. By the way, I'm disappointed that you cheated me out of some of my pay, Naruto said, looking at Jiraiya. Naruto, I won't allow you to leave, you're too emotional right now, Tsunade said, looking at him. Unbelievable, after all the crap I've put up with, you intend to keep me in this village. Do you really want to handle it this way? Naruto asked. Yes, the Godame said seriously. Naruto shook his head and sighed. Fine, I didn't want it to turn out this way, but you forced my hand. What are you talking about? Jiraiya asked. Sarutobi-sama, have you checked the safe behind Yondaime's picture? The Sandaime gasped and ran over to the safe. He then bit his thumb and smeared his blood on it. When his blood disappeared, the door opened. Naruto, what have you done with the scroll? Sarutobi yelled. Don't worry, it's in a safe place. My lineage will remain a secret, as long as you let me leave. Naruto, this is a dangerous game you're playing, Tsunade said, deadly serious. I would hate to see this end badly for you. Picking up on the slightly veiled threat, he replied. Trust me, if anything happens to me, the scroll will become public knowledge. Look, all I wanted to do is leave this ungrateful village using the proper laws of the leaf, but you don't seem to want to abide by them. So if you don't want the Fire Lord finding out how this village treated his nephew, then you will let me go," Naruto said sternly. Tsunade and Naruto looked into each other's eyes. Brown met blue. "Fine, give me your Hitayate forehead protector," she said, holding out her hand. "Tsunade, what are you doing?" Sarutobi asked, not wanting to lose Minato's legacy. "You know what will happen to the village if the Fire Lord finds out that we've been hiding his nephew," she replied. Naruto started to get up to hand her his Hitayate. "Naruto, you know once you leave the village you'll never be allowed to come back," Tsunade said, taking his Hitayate. "Yeah, I know," he replied. "What about wanting to be Hokage?" she asked. "That was before I knew how you people and this village really are," he said, taking off the necklace she gave him and handed it to her, shocking everyone. He started to walk out the door, but stopped right before he reached the knob to open it. "You know, it took 15 years and a Chidori to the chest to finally figure out that this village just ain't worth fighting for." With that, he opened the door and left. 2 days later, on a cloudy, overcast day, he walked out the front gates with a black cat following him and a duffel bag draped over his right shoulder, never to return. Chapter 4. The Aftermath, and the plot thickens. XXXXXXXXXX Konoha Hospital XXXXXXXXX. Sakura was sitting by Sasuke's bedside, her jade eyes watching the Uchiha coldly. "I can't believe that stupid demon couldn't even do this right. They were supposed to kill each other, damn it. What am I supposed to do now?" she thought, as all her plans were now in jeopardy. She was taken out of her thoughts by the sound of someone entering the room. "How is he doing, Sakura-san?" Shizune asked as she took his medical chart from the foot of his bed. "He's the same, Shizune-san. Do you know when he'll wake up?" "No, but Tsunade-sama thinks he'll be up in a couple of days, maybe a week." "Oh, all right," she said almost disappointedly. Shizune caught her tone, but wrote it off as stress. "So how is Naruto doing?" Shizune dropped the chart that was in her hands. "Ah, Sakura-san, about Naruto. He's fine as far as I know. He's, well, you see, he's not in the village anymore," she said as she picked the chart up off the floor. "Not in the village? What do you mean, not in the village?" Sakura asked excitedly. "Was he kicked out for what happened to Sasuke-kun?" No, nothing like that," Shizune replied, trying to calm the pink-haired Kunoichi. "He resigned his commission and left a few days ago," Shizune said regretfully. But why would he leave? What about being Hokage? What about Team 7? "The team structures will have to be re-evaluated by Tsunade-sama. I'm sure she will fill you in on the details when she meets with you all eventually. I'll leave you and Sasuke alone," Shizune said, giving Sakura time alone with her thoughts. Once the door closed, Sakura went back to her earlier thoughts. "Well, that's interesting. I never thought Uzumaki would just leave like that. I guess that takes care of one of my problems. Now what to do with you, Sasuke-kun?" Sakura asked out loud right before she got up to leave. XXXXXXXXXX Secrete Underground Bunker Konoha Forest XXXXXXXXX. Danzo was standing in front of one of his most trusted root members, her pearl white pupilless eyes slightly looking down as she kneeled on one knee before him. "Hinata, report," he ordered. "Hi, Danzo-sama. It seems that Uzumaki has resigned his commission as a leaf nin as of a few days ago," Hinata reported. "Any reason for the sudden change of heart?" the one-armed man asked suspiciously. "It seems whatever happened to him during his fight with the Uchiha made him question his loyalty to the village. It also seems as though he was terribly upset with the Sandaime and the remaining Sannin. Interesting. What are your thoughts on what he may do now that he's left the village? I mean, it has been your mission for Root to shadow him and gather intel since before the academy," Danzo stated. "Well, Danzo-sama, it is my opinion that if he was willing to resign, it surely means that he has given up on the village and is probably of no consequence any longer. However, I never anticipated that he would be willing to leave to begin with, so my assumptions may be off," Hinata responded. "Interesting. I'm surprised that Sarutobi and Tsunade would let him leave freely, I wonder." He was interrupted by Sakura as she burst in through the door angrily, making Hinata instantly stand to face the possible threat. "Ah, Sakura-san, you've gotten so much better at hiding your chakra signature. How nice of you to visit me," he said amusedly. "Cut the crap, Danzo. We need to talk," the pink-haired Kunoichi said, looking at Hinata. Hinata turned around to look at Danzo, who simply gave her a curt nod signifying that it was all right to leave them alone. As Hinata walked out, she locked eyes with Sakura. For a split second, you could see the hatred that existed between the two kunoichi. When the door clicked shut, Sakura spoke. I don't trust her. She spent too much time around that demon Uzumaki. I think she might have become corrupted by him. Now, Sakura-san, I can assure you that she is one of my most loyal root agents. Now what have you come to talk to me about? He asked, not wanting to hear her rant about Hinata, as he was well aware of their hatred for each other. Have you heard the demon left a few days ago? Yes, Hinata just gave me the report. She also mentioned that he was very upset when he returned from the retrieval mission. Yes, especially with the Sandaime. What I don't understand is what could have happened between the two. I never thought Uzumaki would ever act that way. Whatever it was that made him leave doesn't matter now because it's one less obstacle for you, Danzo stated. Yes. Sakura agreed as she thought about it a little. But there's still the Uchiha. They failed to kill each other as I had hoped they would. How am I supposed to get him out of the way? The villagers are completely blind and think that because he has that blasted Sharingan that he can do no wrong. Don't worry, Sakura-san, that is a simple matter. Remember that the ninja of the village are not controlled by the villagers or the village council. They're controlled by the shinobi council. I will wager that with the Uchiha brat's current actions that neither Tsunade nor Sarutobi would vote to go easy on him. Not to mention that several clan heirs were also hurt by his actions. Yes, but what about Sarutobi's old teammates Hamura and Koharu? They love the Uchiha. That is true, but I will put forth a motion to strip the Uchiha of his ninja status and have his Tenketsu sealed by an Hyuga. I'll simply push the fact that he was willing to abandon the village to join Odo. They'll side with me. Besides, their only real interest is in breeding the Uchiha, not in Sasuke. Danzo replied. It seems you have thought of everything, Danzo. Do you have any ideas as to how I can ingratiate myself to the Elder Council, Village Council, and the people? Well, Sakura-chan, I have been giving it some thought, and I think you should become the Go-Dame, Tsunade's apprentice. That might be a good move. As the Go-Dame's apprentice, it would put me in a much better position to be appointed as her successor, and if I should run across my old teammate Uzumaki. Well, once I've gained knowledge of how to use her chakra-enhanced strength, what better way to be loved by the villagers than to walk through the front gates with his broken, lifeless body slung over my shoulder? The pink-haired kunoichi replied as she started to leave. I hope when you become Hokage that you won't forget your friends. He asked. Don't worry, Danzo, when I'm made Rokudame, you along with Root will be at my right hand, she said as she left. Danzo had a confident smirk on his face. Excellent, all my pawns are in place, he thought as he too left. XXXXXXXXXX, Sum no Kuni, Land of Claw, XXXXXXXXXX. Soifin had been talking with Tsubaki, working on strategy to get the Shurkan jewel shard. She was going through the whole thing in her mind. How the hell does a normal human get a hold of a Shurkan jewel shard? She could only be thankful that he hasn't yet unlocked its full potential. She sent for more info from Karen. What she learned shocked her. Apparently, Orochimaru was once a member of a group of S-class nuke called Akatsuki, and it seems that he may have acquired the shard through them, so that means each one of them might have a shard. How the hell did such a group go unnoticed by me for so long? Maybe I should send someone to check on my favorite Jinchuriki, she thought as she sent for Lust. You wanted to see me, Soifin-sama? Yes, Lust, I have a mission for you. I want you to go to Konoha and see how Naruto-kun is doing. What, that's it? You want me to spy on your boyfriend? Why don't you send Sloth or Tsubaki? Hell, I'm sure one of your random means could do it. Soifin gritted her teeth as her eyes started to glow. To Lust, it was as if the petite Chinese woman suddenly towered over her as she released a massive wave of spiritual pressure, making the homunculus fall to her hands and knees, panting with sweat dripping off of her pale, delicate skin. You will do it because I ordered you to, Soifin hissed. Soifin then walked over and crouched down in front of the fallen woman, cupping her hand under Lust's chin, lifting her face to meet her gaze. Do not forget your place, Lust. My patience has limits. You would do well not to forget that. All the homunculus could do was look at her mistress, her purple slitted eyes pulsing with fear. Soifin let the woman's chin go as she stood up to go to the mansion, but paused, looking back at Lust still on her hands and knees, panting. I expect you to be gone within the hour. She then continued, heading back. XXXXXXXXXX, Amigate Cure, Village hidden in rain. XXXXXXXXXX. They were all gathered in the Akatsuki base. It isn't very often that all the members were called back from their primary mission, so they figured it must be serious. Pain walked into the main hall, followed closely by Conan. They stopped in front of the group, Pain eyeing each remaining member carefully. Zetsu was killed several days ago, Pain told the other members. There were murmurs among the group. Was it Orochimaru? Itachi asked. No, it was not Orochimaru. It was a new threat, a demoness named Kagura and her demon neens. Demons? Kisame scoffed. We capture demons all the time. Why should we be afraid of this Kagura and these demon neens? First of all, we only capture Biju and Jinchuriki. As far as respective power goes, the Biju may be extremely powerful, but it's tempered by the fact that they are basically wild beasts. They can't think or make strategies to take advantage of that power. The Jinchuriki simply do not fully know how to harness the Biju's full potential. That's why we have the Shurikon jewel shards to control that potential. Kagura and her demon neens, on the other hand, are a totally different matter. They are far more intelligent and have full control over their powers. Pain explained. So what's the plan, Leader Sama? Haiden asked. Since I don't think we can beat all the demon neens and Kagura, not to mention others may now know about the jewel shards, I think we should all disband and go our separate ways for a few years until I can think of something. But won't that leave us more vulnerable, leaving us to get picked off one at a time? Kakuzu asked. It would seem we have no choice, Conan said in her usual cold tone. It's either we split up now and have a fighting chance to reconvene at a later date, or we fall. Man, I don't collect enough bounties to put up with this shit. Kakuzu spat in frustration. It's always about money with you. Haiden snapped. Why don't you go and whine to your god Jashin, evil god? Kakuzu snapped back at his partner. Enough, Pain yelled. We have got to split to survive. Those are the cold hard facts. I hope we'll be able to assemble in a few years, if there are any of us left. With that, the Akatsuki temporarily disbanded and went their separate ways. After a few minutes, they were all gone except for Itachi, who was deep in thought. I have to send a message to Jiraiya-sama about this, he thought before summoning a small toad. XXXXXXXXXXX Konoha Tsunade's office. XXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade sat heavily in her chair, going over the current situation in her head. It had been a little over a week since Naruto had resigned. The people and council seemed to be happy to have their demon gone. I can't believe how they've treated Minato's son, but that still doesn't justify him threatening me. Then there's Sarutobi and Jiraiya hiding such things from me, she thought bitterly. She was taken out of her musings by a knock at the door. Come in. The door opened, revealing Haruno Sakura. Hello Sakura, what can I do for you today? She asked. Bowing deeply, she said, I would like you to train me, Hokage-sama. Tsunade looked at her sadly. In the course of a week, she lost her entire team, one boy a traitor who will be stripped of his rank, the other a boy who had just given up on the village on them, and a sensei who never really should have been one in the first place. I'm sorry, Sakura, she said regretfully, but I don't think I would be a good teacher for you. She was taken aback when the girl looked back up at her with tears and determination in her eyes. Please, Tsunade-sama, it was all my fault, all of it. If I had been stronger, if I had taken my job as a kunoichi seriously, maybe I could have stopped Sasuke then and there, and he wouldn't have been stripped of his ninja status. Maybe Naruto wouldn't have resigned. Please, I beg of you, train me. Tsunade was shocked. She never thought Sakura had it in her. She thought she only cared about herself and the Uchiha. All right, Sakura, I will train you, but you will have to take this seriously. Hi, Sakura exclaimed as she bowed once more and left the room. Maybe she'll be a good apprentice, the buxom Kage thought. Sakura walked out of the Hokage's office with a cold smirk on her face. I can't believe it was that easy to manipulate the old hag, she thought. What she didn't notice was Shizune watching her suspiciously. What are you up to, Sakura-san? XXXXXXXXXX Konoha Hyuga Compound. XXXXXXXXXX. Hinata was in the private dojo, currently destroying several training dummies. What's the matter, sister? Hanabi asked, concerned. Slightly panting from the intense workout. With Naruto gone and Sasuke stripped of his status, there's no one to challenge her for the Hokage title. Hinata spat angrily. Why would Danzo-sama back someone like Sakura-san to become Hokage? He thinks she will be his willing puppet, but he doesn't understand she's much more dangerous than people give her credit for. I don't like it any more than you do, Hinata, But as long as she has the support of Danzo, she has the support of Root. He is the leader after all. Hinata looked at her sister with cold eyes and said, maybe it's time Root had a new leader. With that, she walked out, leaving a shocked Hanabi. XXXXXXXXXX, small village, edge of fire country, XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto and Yoruichi in her cat form were walking down a dirt road that lead into the village. What are we doing here? Why couldn't we just have gone to Nami no Kuni, Land of Waves? Naruto asked. 2 reasons. 1, from what I hear, you would be too recognizable there. 2, we're going to hopefully meet the second member of your team. The feline replied. And who would that be? Naruto asked. A girl who looks about your age, but she's much older. Her name is Inoue Orihime. I need you to go and check into an inn. It may take a while to find her, so after that just look around the village. I'm sure you'll find something to keep you occupied. Sure, whatever, I'll see you later, he said as they separated and Naruto went to find an inn. 10 minutes later, Naruto had found a modest inn where they could stay for a few days. Hello, my name is Amina, and welcome to the Fugal Inn. How may I help you? Yes, I'd like a room, please. And how many in your party? Naruto thought for a second. Well, I can save money if I say it's just me. Hell, Yoruichi stays in her cat form most of the time anyway. Just me. Please sign the registry. Naruto decided to use an alias. Amina turned the book around so she could read the name. Thank you, Aizen Sosuke. I hope you enjoy your stay. Oh, I'm sure I will. Thanks. A half hour later, Naruto decided to leave the inn to go and explore the village. After a few minutes of wandering, he came to a small restaurant. May I help you? A waitress asked. Yes, I'd like a bowl of miso ramen, please. I'm sorry, sir, but we don't serve ramen. Naruto frowned. Great, just great, he thought. Well, could I just have some dango and green tea, then? Thank you. Sure thing, she replied. A few minutes later, Naruto was calmly eating his dango while deep in thought. I can't figure out why I can't seem to communicate with the furball lately ever since that fight with the damn Uchiha. How they're probably throwing him a parade. Maybe Yoruichi-san can help me figure it out. He was taken out of his musings when he saw a girl about his age with orange-brown hair, bangs tucked behind her ears, and strange-looking hairpins. What caught his eye, though, was the fact that 3 big guys followed her out with huge grins on their faces. Naruto got up and left some money on the table with a tip for the waitress and followed them. The girl turned into an alley, and the 3 guys followed in behind her. Naruto wasn't far behind when he too entered the alley. Well, look at what we got here. If it isn't our favorite demon hunting bitch. Kagura-sama's put quite a bounty in your head. Demon hunter, Naruto thought. Suddenly their skin started to stretch and peel as a scale-like armor burst through, and their finger grew into long dagger-like claws. The girl noticed Naruto standing there gawking. What the hell are you doing, Baka? Get the hell out of here. Just as she yelled for him to get out, one of the demons turned around and started speeding towards him. Only one thought went through Naruto's mind. Son of a bitch. Chapter 5. Baptism by Fire, and the search begins. XXXXXXXXXX, alley, small village, edge of fire country, XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto quickly jumped to the side, expecting the demon to run past him, but to his surprise, instead of passing by him, it instantly stopped in front of him, spun around, and slammed its powerful forearm with its scale-like armor into Naruto's chest, sending him flying through the alley's brick wall. Oh no, Orihime shouted, concerned, but as she was about to run and help him, she was blocked by the 2 remaining demons. Where do you think you're going, bitch? We'll make you pay for all of our brethren that you've killed. One of the demon neens spat. Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy hearing your screams. The other demon continued. Orihime narrowed her gray eyes and scowled, jumping back, taking a fighting stance. Tsubaki, she yelled. Suddenly the hairpin on the right side of her head glowed, and a strange arrow-like creature flew out, speeding toward her enemies. Koten Zanshuan, solitary sacred cutting shield, a thin barrier formed on either side of it. I reject thee. Her anger strengthened the technique as it sped toward one of the demons, slicing through the front of its armored chest, cutting through its heart. Black demon blood sprayed everywhere as it exited through its back. The remaining demon neen swiped it with its dagger-like claws, managing to tear a notch in Tsubaki's wing, causing him to go off track and hit the alley wall. Damn you! The demon neen spat as he wiped his comrade's blood off of his face and charged her. Hinajuku Lily Bagan, she yelled, jumping back. putting even more space between her and the raging demon Nin. Santen Keshin, 3 Sacred Links shield. They formed a triangle that acted as a barrier that repelled the demon's attack. Damn it, drop this damn barrier so I can rip you apart. No, she said sarcastically as she rolled her eyes, making the demon Nin even angrier. Then noticing Tsubaki recover and start to hover again, she tapped into her anger once more. Tsubaki, Koten Zanshuan, she yelled. This time she managed to pierce the demon's shoulder, making it scream in pain. Suddenly, an explosion came from inside the building Naruto had been knocked into earlier, slightly distracting Orihime, weakening the shield, letting the demon punch through, knocking her into the wall, where she bounced off and hit the ground. Shaking her head slightly to regain her bearings, she looked up to see the demon Nin running towards her. I'm gonna tear that pretty little face of yours off. It spat with its claws raised. Byakurai, white lightning. Yoruichi yelled as she stood atop one of the buildings, pointing her finger at the advancing demon, shooting a concentrated bolt of lightning out of it. Oh, the demon yelled as it was incinerated easily now that its skin had been pierced. Yoruichi jumped down next to Orihime. Are you alright? The dark-skinned woman asked. Yeah, I'm fine, Yoruichi-san. It's been a while. Yeah, Orihime, it has still fighting demons, I see. Just then she remembered the boy who was knocked through the wall. Oh no, there was this blonde kid who was attacked. She said, getting up. We have to help High Dash. But before she could finish, they both heard a shout of Rasengan. Spiraling sphere. Naruto lifted his head, looking up from the ground, having just been knocked through the alley wall into what looked like an old warehouse. The only light in the building was coming in through 2 old windows and the hole that Naruto's body had made in the wall. He rolled over onto his side, got onto his hands and knees, slowly stood shakily, then turned to look at the scaled demon Nin as it slowly approached him. Stupid Ninjin, human, do you really think you can go toe-to-toe with a demon? It asked mockingly. Naruto narrowed his eyes, crossing his hands into a familiar T shape. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Shadow clone technique. Suddenly 30 Narutos popped into existence. The demon gave a fanged grin and motioned to the clones to attack it. The clones took out their kunai and ran toward the demon. They all jumped on him at the same time, trying to pierce its scale-like armor with their kunai. But it was no use, his skin was too strong. The demon Nin laughed as it threw Naruto's shadow clones off of him and used his dagger-like claws to decimate the small shadow clone army. What the hell? Naruto thought as he could swear he saw flashes of memories from his destroyed clones, but he shook it off as possibly a concussion from having been knocked through the wall. The next thing he knew, he was being held off the ground by the hands of the demon Nin as he was grasping at its arms, struggling to breath. While that was rather pathetic, Ninjin, I somehow expected a better fight. The demon Nin mocked. Naruto's eyes started to glow red. His teeth turned into fangs and his nails grew into claws. He then grabbed the demon Nin's arm with both hands, bringing his knees up to his chest, and kicked his legs out with all the force he could muster, slamming both feet into the demon's chest, propelling himself out of the demon's grip and backwards through the air. He spun his body around in mid-air, launching a kunai with an explosive tag wrapped around its handle at the demon's chest. He landed, skidding backwards on his feet several feet away as the kunai hit the demon's chest and exploded. Naruto looked at the cloud of smoke with a confident smirk, thinking that he had killed the demon. But to his surprise, when the smoke cleared, he saw that he had only managed to tear a hole in its scale-like armor. Shit, that should have blown it to pieces. What will it take to kill this damn thing? Naruto thought angrily. Looking down at his damaged chest, the demon's black eyes narrowed. You'll pay for that, Ninjin. It yelled as it charged Naruto, who barely managed to roll out of the way, even with Kyuubi's chakra, making the demon's clawed hand miss and get stuck in the floor. Naruto then stood up and quickly ran toward the demon with a charged Rasengan, slamming it into the damaged part of the demon Nin's chest, making the demon fly backwards into a stack of heavy crates that fell on him. He stared at the crates for a moment to make sure the demon didn't get back up. When he saw black demon blood seep out from beneath the crates, he let out a sigh of relief as the Kyuubi chakra receded. He then started coughing and spat up some blood. Naruto! He heard someone yell as his vision darkened, and he fell face first unconscious. What, you know him? Orihime asked. Yes, he's Kushina's son. Orihime had a look of pure shock on her face. Really? Where did you find him? How has he been doing? Look, I'll answer your questions later. but first we have to get him somewhere safe. We can go to the inn I've been staying at. I'll heal him there, Orihime suggested. With that, Yoruichi picked Naruto up and slung him over her shoulder, and they all disappeared into thin air. XXXXXXXXXX Udon no Kuni, land of Udon. XXXXXXXXXX. Kagura wasn't too surprised that they were defeated, as they were some of her weaker demon nin. After all, she needed her stronger nins to hunt down the Akatsuki. What did surprise her, however, was that the blonde Gaki demonstrated demonic attributes. Her curiosity was piqued by what she had just seen through her sister, Kanna's demonic mirror. Well, that was interesting. She commented. I recognize Orihime and Yoruichi, but who was that blonde Gaki? This Naruto, I think Yoruichi called him? He's not a normal ninjin. Maybe our dear Miko, shaman woman, can shed some light on who our newest enemy is. With that, she left the throne room, followed closely by her sister. They walked through the corridors deep beneath the castle that lead to the dungeons. Once they entered, they turned left and walked down a dark hallway leading to their destination, the only visible light being the candles that were hung every 6 feet or so on the dungeon walls. As Kagura opened the old rusted metal door, her senses were assaulted by the horrid stench of the young Miko. It had been nearly 150 years since Kagura had imprisoned the girl, keeping her alive using a specially altered Shurkan jewel shard that the girl could not purify. It also managed to hide her soul from Kikyo. Over the years, she had made the girl relive the final battle with Naruto, the death of her friends, and her lover Inuyasha over and over until she was slowly driven to despair, giving up all hope. Broken. She sat there on her knees with her arms held taut by shackles to prevent her from clawing out her own eyes to try to make the visions of her friends dying over and over again stop. The chains glowed with a strange blue flame as they were also wrapped around her neck and torso. Hello, Kagome. Kagura greeted as she walked over to the girl, grabbing her black hair, making her meet her gaze. Kagome looked into Kagura's blood-red eyes with her dead black lifeless ones. She couldn't help but feel bitter shortly after she'd helped the demoness get her heart back. She'd been betrayed and locked away. Why won't you let me die? Please just let me die. Let me join my friends, she begged. Now, my precious little Miko, you know our arrangement. I'll let you die once you've helped me find all the Shurkan jewel shards, not before. Kagura mocked. Kanna, come here, she ordered. Yes, sister, the white-haired girl replied with a soft voice. Show her, Kagura ordered. The mirror in Kanna's hand started to glow, revealing the face of a blonde-haired, blue, slitted-eyed boy with whisker marks. There's something about this boy. Tell me what it is. Kagome looked at the image in the mirror, then back at the demoness, blankly not answering. Defiant little wench, Kagura thought angrily. Tell me, the demoness bellowed. Tell me, or I'll make the visions worse, she threatened. He's a Jaijin Shiriki, Kagome whimpered. So he's a half-breed? Kagura muttered to herself. Which biju does he contain? Kyubi no Kitsune. Kagura's eyes widened. He's the Kyubi container? I had heard the king of the biju had been sealed, but up until now, I never knew whom it had been sealed into. Suddenly, a black flame appeared in front of her. When the flame disappeared, it revealed one of her demon nins kneeling before her. Kagura-sama, it appears that the Akatsuki have abandoned their base, it said nervously. What do you mean abandoned their base? The demoness spat. It appears that they just vanished. When we entered, everything was gone, stripped bare. He replied fearfully. Damn it to hell, she spat. Tell the other demon nins to come back to the castle. Seems we're going to have to do this the hard way. Hi, it replied as it disappeared in black flame. Looks like the Jinchuriki will have to wait. Kanna, I want you and the Miko to use her power to detect the Shurkan jewel shards, and your mirror to start scrying for the Akatsuki members, Kagura ordered before leaving the dungeon. XXXXXXXXXX Konoha Hospital XXXXXXXXXX. Sasuke was lying in his hospital bed going over the situation in his mind, having just had his Tenketsu sealed by a Hyuga, so he couldn't use chakra or his Sharingan. How the hell could they do this to me? I'm an Uchiha, he thought bitterly. If that wasn't bad enough, he had also found out from a very angry Tsunade that the Shinobi Council had voted almost unanimously to revoke his ninja status. When he protested, she slammed her fist on the metal table, breaking it, and said that if it were up to her, she would have had him executed. She also informed him that he would never be allowed to leave the village, and he would also be under constant ANBU surveillance. He balled his fists in anger. It's all that damn dope's fault. How the hell was he allowed to leave the village, and I'm not? Everyone seemed to have turned their backs on him, even his favorite lapdog Sakura. Flashback. Sakura had been sitting there for at least an hour listening to Sasuke rant and rave about Naruto being gone and how he would never be able to gain the Mangekyo Sharingan and defeat his brother. She had been ordered by the Go-Dame to keep watch on the Uchiha until she could send ANBU to take over, as they were still short-handed after the invasion. Enough! The pink-haired Kunoichi yelled. What's done is done, you're lucky you weren't executed. Who do you think you're talking to? I'm an Uchiha. Power is my birthright, they had no right to do this to me. You brought this on yourself when you chose to betray the Leaf. I needed power, and Orochimaru was the only way to get it. Oh really? Did you ever stop to think of where Orochimaru got his power from, or your brother for that matter? From the Leaf, that's where in time you might have surpassed both of them. But you'll never know, will you? None of that matters now anyway, oh great Uchiha, since you're nothing more than breeding stock now. Get the hell out. Sasuke snapped, just as an ANBU in a falcon mask showed up. Fine. Sakura hissed. The ANBU's here so I can leave. I'm done with you anyway. If I see Itachi, I'll tell him you said hello. With that, she left, slamming the door, leaving behind a furious Sasuke and a slightly confused ANBU. In flashback. Sakura didn't know what the hell she was talking about. He'd figure out a way to escape and show them all that they had made a big mistake crossing him. XXXXXXXXXX Konoha Naruto's old apartment XXXXXXXXX. The Chunin was holding a kunai in his hand, shaking with fright. He had just witnessed this beautiful woman in a strapless long black dress, long gloves, and a strange tattoo over her breast had just killed his comrades. That wasn't the reason for his shaking, though. The reason he was shaking was because he had just pierced her forehead with a kunai and watched as it embedded deep into her skull as she fell dead. But to his surprise, she got back up a minute later and pulled it out as if nothing had happened. Well, looks like I just died, she said as if it was an everyday occurrence. What the hell are you? The young Chunin asked fearfully. That. She paused and took a step towards him. Is none of your concern. Tell me, where is Uzumaki Naruto? The demon's gone, he left a while ago. Good riddance, we didn't need his kind here anyway. Oh really? She took another step. Stay back, I it. He stuttered. Why so jumpy, stud? She mocked as she took yet another step towards him. Then she vanished and reappeared right behind him with her chest pressed against her back and her left hand wrapped around his throat, cutting off his air supply. You know, you should have been more confident in your abilities. She breathed into his ear. It does wonders for a man. With that, she took her right index finger and pressed it against the side of his temple, making her claw shoot through his skull. She watched as he fell to the floor dead as blood started to pool around his head. Katan. Karyu Enden. Fire release. Fire dragon flame missile. She heard someone shout from behind her. She turned to see an old man with a white goatee spitting a long stream of fire towards her. Caught by surprise, she was instantly engulfed in fire. When the fire died down, Sarutobi walked over to inspect the ashes. Then he looked at the fallen Leaf Nin. What the hell happened here? He asked himself. Oh, nothing much, just a little thinning of the herd. He heard a sultry voice say as the ashes started to take shape. First bone started to grow, then muscle fiber, then organs, and finally skin and her dress. The Sandame stood there too shocked to react as Lust shot her clawed finger through his shoulder, pinning him to a wall. Arg! Sarutobi grunted in pain as he felt blood drip down his body onto the floor. Now tell me, Lust said, smiling. Where is Naruto? I don't know. I wouldn't tell you even if I did. He spat in defiance. Wrong answer, she said, leaning in further to increase the pressure. Ojizen, grandfather. Have they finished packing up Naruto's things? Konohamaru asked, running into his room. He instantly stopped when two clawed fingers pierced the door on either side of his neck. Now be a good boy, your Ojizen and I were talking. You know, if I twist my hand, she said as she turned her head to look at Sarutobi with cold, purple-slitted eyes. No, please don't, he pleaded. Where is he? She hissed. I really don't know. He left a couple of weeks ago with a black cat, the former Hokage stated. Lust's eyes widened, then a small smirk appeared on her beautiful face. A black cat, huh? She said, amused. Looks like Soifin's old mistress got to him first. The homunculus thought as she let them both go, and Konohamaru ran to the Hizojaisen's side. She did a one-handed seal, and a black vortex opened in the room. "Wait, what do you want with Naruto?" the Sandaime asked. "That doesn't concern you. All you need to know is that if you get in our way, we'll destroy your village," she threatened as she left through the vortex. Chapter 6. A look into the past, to face one's self. XXXXXXXXXX, small village edge of fire country Fugai, in XXXXXXXXXX. Amy Shuno. Suddenly, two female fairy-like creatures materialized from her hairpins hovering in the air, awaiting their orders. Soten Kisan, twin sacred return shield. Orihime said, making gestures with her hands. The fairies transformed and made a half-oval barrier that expanded to surround Naruto's body, as Orihime leaned into it and concentrated. "So how is he?" Yuruchi asked. "He's pretty beat up. There seems to be some demonic chakra, so it'll take me a little longer to heal him. Shouldn't be more than a couple of hours, though," she replied. She couldn't believe that Kushina, the tomboyish prankster, would settle down and have a son. She still remembered how they all met over 90 years ago, the day her best friend Arisawa Tatsuki died, and her life changed forever. Flashback. "What do you think it is?" Orihime asked Tatsuki as they walked down a random street in their small village, looking at the mysterious blue shard they'd found. "I don't know, but it's beautiful. I think I'll have it turned into a necklace," she replied as she held it in her hands. They had spent the whole day wandering aimlessly around the village, talking about this and that, about cute boys and how much they hate their teachers. Pointless teenage chit-chat, really. Then they found themselves in an older part of the village with several dilapidated buildings when Tatsuki looked down and noticed a strange-looking jewel-like shard on the ground. She picked it up, and they both were captivated by its beauty. They were about to head back to Orihime's house when a clawed hand shot through her back and out her chest, spraying her blood everywhere, some splashing on Tatsuki's face. "What the hell?" Tatsuki yelled in horror as she saw her best friend fall to the ground. Turning around, she saw a strange creature with black scales and eyes. "Give me the Shurkan jewel shard, Ninjin." "Human," it spat forcefully as it held out a clawed hand. Tatsuki stood there dumbfounded, drenched in her best friend's blood, her mouth agape, too afraid to move as she looked at its clawed hand, then over at Orihime's fallen body as she laid there on the ground with her eyes wide open, frozen forever in shock. "I don't have time for this. Hand it over." It looked around as if something or someone were after it. "Oh, the hell with it." It spat as its claws tore through her chest. "Arg," she gasped out as she clutched her chest with her right hand as blood seeped through her fingers, falling backwards onto the ground. The jewel shard tumbling out of her left hand as she had fallen with a thud. It spun round and round, finally coming to a stop next to Orihime's head. As the demon was about to walk over to retrieve the shard, a blur passed by it and skidded to a stop, holding her Zanpakuto, cutting soul sword. She brought the blade up to the side of her head next to her long red hair, watching the demon Nin coldly as its black blood dripped from the blade. The demon Nin looked at her, then at the blade in shock as the realization that it had just been cut had dawned on him. His upper body slowly separated from his lower body as the two halves fell to the ground. Seeing her job was done, she placed her Zanpakuto into its sheath on her back. She looked down sadly at the two girls' bodies. "Damn, I didn't get here soon enough," Kushina said out loud. "Well, I managed to kill 4 of them. The reports from the village elders said there were 8. Yuruchi said, looking at the two halves of the demon Nin. "Yeah," Kushina sighed. "I got the rest of them, but I didn't get here in time to save these girls." As Yuruchi looked over, she and Kushina witnessed one of the girl's strange hairpins start to glow as a beam of energy grabbed the jewel shard that was by Orihime's head and pulled it in. Suddenly, the girl's body was engulfed in a glowing dome. A minute later, the dome receded, and she started to wake up, shocking them both. "Well, what happened?" she asked weakly, looking at the two women. When she looked over and saw the two halves of the demon, it started to click in her mind what had happened. Then, looking every which way, she saw her friend on the ground in pool of blood. "Oh no, oh Tatsuki," she yelled as she crawled over to her friend's corpse. "Wake up," she said, shaking her friend's lifeless body. "Please, Tatsuki, wake up." Yuruchi and Kushina just looked on sadly as the girl cried over her friend's corpse. "I'm so sorry for your loss," Kushina said, putting her hand on her shoulder. "She was my best friend, and the only person closest to family I had left after my brother died." She wept. After a few days, they buried Tatsuki, and Oraheim left the village with them to train to control her new powers as they traveled to different villages. Over the next 5 years, they helped her master her powers, and she also learned how to fight demons. They would offer their services as demon hunters to make extra money. Yoruchi and Kushina decided they had had enough of constantly going from village to village fighting demons and wanted to settle down and live a normal shinobi life and join a village. Oraheim, however, wanted to keep fighting in memory of Tatsuki, killing as many demons as she could. So after spending so many years together, it was difficult, but they split ways. In flashback, Yoruchi sat on the small couch next to Oraheim while Naruto was on the bed asleep, recovering. "So he's actually Kushina's son?" Oraheim asked. "I thought she died when Whirlpool was destroyed." She said, "Yeah, that's what I thought. But believe it or not, Kushina had not been in Whirlpool during the attack. I found her son in Konoha when he was 4. Turns out she had settled down in Konoha where she got engaged, but died giving birth." Yoruchi replied with slight regret at not being able to have seen her friend just one more time. "Oh, sorry to hear that," Oraheim said sadly. She remembered when she had run into Yoruchi and was told about Whirlpool. At the time, they had both held out hope that Kushina wasn't dead. Oraheim saying she would keep an eye out for her on her travels. "What, so he's been with you since he was 4? No, I tried to get him to come with me, but he wouldn't. You see, the village's Kage had manipulated him into staying and becoming a ninja of his village. Actually, he just recently decided to come with me. I plan on making him my pupil." Oraheim's eyes widened slightly in surprise. "Wow, I thought you'd never take on another pupil, not after what happened with." She trailed off. "It's all right, you can say it. I too thought I'd never take on another pupil after what happened with Soifin." "Are you really ready to take an actual pupil? I mean, do you think he's up for this?" "Yeah, I think he could surpass me and Kushina in time." Her mood darkened slightly. "You should have seen how they treated her son in that village. I mean, they beat him and tried to assassinate him. Hell, he even had a biju sealed into him by his own father. After a life like that, he deserves to have someone actually take the time to train him. Not to mention, I feel I owe it to Kushina to make him strong." Oraheim smiled. "Yeah, I think Kushina would have liked to see her son surpass her. So he has a biju that explains the demonic chakra I felt while I was healing him, but I didn't feel a demonic soul." "Wait, you didn't feel a soul?" Yoruchi asked, surprised, then stood up to walk over to the bed and lifted Naruto's shirt, holding her hand over where the seal was. She started to channel Retsu, spiritual energy, into it. She couldn't believe it. "How come I didn't notice this sooner?" she thought. "What is it?" Oraheim asked. "It seems that the suppression seal wasn't the only thing that was destroyed," she mumbled to herself. "His seal was designed to absorb the biju 18 years after it had been activated, but it seems his fight may have sped up the process. See this?" She pointed to his stomach. "See this? The spiral is almost completely gone. I doubt he can even communicate with it anymore." "So he's merging with the biju?" "No, not exactly. The demon itself is dying. Naruto's simply gaining its powers, and maybe its memories, but it's too soon. I don't think he can handle all the tales yet." "All the tales? Wait, which biju is it?" "Kyubi no Kitsune." Oraheim was shocked. This boy was not only Kushina's son, making him part Shinigami, but he also had the king of the biju in him. No wonder Yoruchi thought he would surpass her. "So what does this mean?" she asked the dark-skinned woman. "When he wakes up, I'm going to have to go with him into his mindscape to see what's going on." XXXXXXXXXXX Konoha Tsunade's office. XXXXXXXXX. "I've got 4 dead Chunin. What the hell happened, sensei?" she half yelled. "When I entered Naruto's apartment to check on their progress, they were already dead, having been attacked by a strange woman. I had managed to kill her, though." "If you had managed to kill her, then why was her corpse nowhere to be found? And how was she able to escape unseen?" she interrupted. "You didn't let me finish. I not only killed her, I used Keton, Karyo Enden, Fire Release, Fire Dragon Flame Missile, which incinerated her. She had managed to somehow reform, and then attacked me." "What do you mean reformed?" "I mean her body reformed from the ashes. It was as if nothing happened. It was incredible. Whoever she is, she's extremely powerful." Tsunade had her elbows on her desk, with her chin on her entwined fingers, deep in thought. "Yes, and she's after Naruto. Do you think she wants Kyubi?" Just then Jiraiya came in through the window, interrupting their conversation. Why don't you ever use the door like a normal person? Tsunade asked, annoyed. I'm a ninja. Why would I use the door? Besides, I have urgent info that I've just received from an informant about the Akatsuki. Well, don't just leave us in suspense. What is it? Tsunade spat. Jiraiya rolled his eyes in annoyance. Well, it seems Akatsuki has temporarily disbanded and are on the run. One of their members has also been killed, so Naruto can breathe a little easier for a while wherever he is. I wouldn't be so sure of that. For Chunin were just killed and Sensei was attacked by a woman who was looking for Naruto in his old apartment. Jiraiya's eyes widened. She might have been one of those demon neens. Demon neens? What are you talking about? Sarutobi asked. That's why Akatsuki has disbanded, and the members have gone underground. They're being hunted by a demoness named Kagura and her demon neens. Maybe she was this Kagura? I hit her with Inkaryu and it burned her to ashes, but she just reformed as if nothing happened, then disappeared into a black vortex before she made her threat. Threat? What threat? Jiraiya asked. Before she left, she warned me to stay out of her way, or they would destroy the village, and I think they're strong enough to do it. We'll heed her warning and stay out of this, for now. She paused, looking at the two men, making sure they understood. There seems to be a lot of things happening behind the scenes that involve Naruto. We'll have to make up something to tell the council. Tsunade said. What the hell is going on? She thought as the three of them started to come up with a cover story. XXXXXXXXXX Konoha Park XXXXXXXXX. Hanabi was sitting on a bench in the middle of the park looking out into the distance, watching some of the children as they ran and played with their friends as their parents looked on happily. She couldn't help but think back to what her sister had said. Would Hinata really kill Danzo and take over Root? She thought. She was worried because as the heiress, any move Hinata made against a member of the council could throw the whole clan into a war with the village if she failed. On the other hand, she hadn't liked the idea of Sakura's eventual rise to Hokage any more than Hinata did, but to do something so drastic. Hello, Hanabi-san. She heard a familiar voice from behind her. Nice to run into you again. Hanabi's white pupilless eyes narrowed slightly as the person came around the bench to sit beside her, also watching the families in the distance. Hello, Sakura-san, to what do I owe the pleasure? She asked sarcastically. You know, contrary to what your sister may tell you, I'm really not a bad person. The pink-haired Kunoichi said while sneaking glances at Hanabi out of the corner of her eye. Oh really? Not a bad person. From what I hear, you set your two former teammates against each other, hoping they would both kill one another, making your path to Hokage that much easier. Was that a lie? Sakura just sat there for a minute, not saying anything. No, it's true, but I did it for the village. Hanabi's curiosity was piqued by her answer. She turned her head to look at Sakura, lifting a delicate brow, waiting for her to continue. The village needs a firm hand to guide it. Someone like me to return it to its former glory, especially after the recent invasion. We should have crushed sand for the part they played in trying to destroy us, not make a new treaty that they'll only break again in the future. Hanabi couldn't help but agree with her on that point. And as for my two former teammates, they were both a threat to the village that needed to be dealt with. Sasuke was so obsessed with killing his brother that he would have gladly destroyed the village if it meant getting the power to kill Itachi. He was another Orochimaru in the making. And I'm sure you know what Naruto is? Yes, he's a Jinchuriki, a human sacrifice, the prison for Kyuubi. Sakura's face darkened. I don't care what your sister or anyone else told you. He is the Kyuubi, and the reason I, along with so many other children, grew up orphans. That monster, that beast should have been killed years ago. Several people looked in their direction, having noticed Sakura's outburst. The pink-haired Kunoichi had to take a moment to compose herself as the people that had been looking at them continued on with what they were doing. People like us have to do what's best for the village, so that people like them. She gestured with her hand to the children who were off in the distance playing. Can live long, peaceful lives. I would rather work with the Hyuga than against you. Hanabi was about to say something when a swirl of white mist formed in front of them. Dissipating, it revealed the Hyuga heiress, Hinata. Hinata. Sakura spat. Haruno. Hinata replied coldly. It seems congratulations are in order on becoming the Godame's apprentice. Why, thank you, Hinata, she said, smiling as her jade eyes danced with mirth, knowing how much her being Tsunade's apprentice must have pissed Hinata off. Well, the Hyuga heiress hissed, then turned to look at Hanabi. Father wishes to see us both. Of course, Hanabi said, standing up. It was good speaking with you, Sakura-san. Yes, it was good to speak with you as well, Hanabi-san. We should do it more often. With that, the Hyuga sisters left Hinata in a swirl of white mist, Hanabi in a puff of smoke. What looks like the seed of doubt may have been planted, nothing left to do now but to sit back and see if it grows. Sakura thought before disappearing in a swirl of sakura petals. XXXXXXXXXX Sum no Kuni, Land of Claw, XXXXXXXXXX. Enter, Soifin said. Before entering the private study, Lust took a moment to remove the small smile she had plastered on her face. So Lust, how is Naruto-kun doing? Well, the homunculus paused for dramatic effect. It seems he's no longer in Konoha. What do you mean no longer in Konoha? Soifin hissed. It seems that he left a few weeks ago, with a black cat. Soifin's eyes widened. A black cat, she said, surprised. Yuruchi, she hissed, getting up and walking over to her desk. Lust watched as the woman had her back turned, hands pressed against the mahogany desk as her body was trembling in silent rage. Leave me, the petite woman quietly hissed. But what about Nadash? I said leave. Me, Soifin bellowed, throwing off everything that was on the desk with her hand as she turned to look at the woman, tears of rage flowing from her slanted eyes. Lust immediately stood and scurried out of the room, shutting the door. My weapon, that bitch stole my weapon. The Chinese woman screamed in fury while releasing small bursts of spiritual pressure that were felt all over the compound. Sloth and Tsubaki were headed to Soifin's study to see what was going on, but were stopped by Lust. I wouldn't go in there if I were you, she warned. Why, what happened? The white-haired dark priestess asked. It would appear that her old mistress Yuruchi has gotten to the Kyubi Jinchuriki before she did. All three stood there and listened as they heard their mistress destroy her study. XXXXXXXXXX Fugai and XXXXXXXXXX. Yuruchi and Naruto were sitting on the floor across from each other, both in the lotus position, but kept their eyes open while Oraheim sat on the couch watching quietly. All right, Naruto, just relax and stay focused on my eyes. We're about to go into your mindscape. Hi, Naruto responded nervously. He never really liked entering his mindscape. He kept focused on her golden eyes as they started to glow. It was almost hypnotic. Before he knew what had happened, they were both in his mindscape. They were both shocked by what they found. They were ankle-deep in Kyubi chakra and what looked like blood. What the hell? Naruto spat as he looked around, disgusted. Just as I thought. It seems your fight with the Uchiha at the Valley of the End has sped up the absorption rate. What do you mean, sped up the absorption rate? Your seal was designed to eventually absorb the Kyubi completely, but it was apparently sped up by your fight. Maybe when the Gaki used the Chidori on you. Naruto didn't know what to think. Did this mean he was actually merging with Kyubi? That he was actually Kyubi like the villagers always said he was? Reading Naruto's expression, Yuruchi decided to calm his fears. You're not becoming Kyubi, just gaining his powers. She watched as he let out a sigh of relief. Tell me which way to Kyubi's main prison chamber? It's this way, Naruto said as he gestured for her to follow him. They walked through the corridors of Naruto's mind until they came to two huge black doors with huge red kanji symbols, one for Fox on the left door, and another kanji for Heaven's Prison on the other. Naruto took a deep breath before pushing open the huge doors. What they saw shocked them. There in its hug cage was a dead Kyubi laying on its side, huge slitted eyes glazed over, lifeless, wide open with blood, and chakra slowly seeping off of its fur. Is this the part of the absorption process? No, something's wrong, very wrong, Yuruchi said worriedly. Now don't go scaring me like that, a voice said from the top of the cage before Yuruchi was thrown backwards out of the prison chamber, the doors sealing behind her. Looking up, Naruto saw a person standing, their arms crossed with a strange, solid black mask. Who are you? He stuttered. Oh, how rude of me, it said in a voice that sounded strangely familiar. Then tapping the mask with its forefinger, it shattered to pieces, revealing something that shocked him. Why, you're me, he said, looking at the person on top of the cage. Yes, I am. Well, sort of. You see, I'm all your darkest desires, your hatred, your thirst for vengeance, your thirst for power, to rule all. I'm your inner hollow, it said with a vicious smile. Chapter 7. Coming to Terms with the Past. XXXXXXXXXX Fugai and XXXXXXXXXX. What the hell happened? Orihime asked Yuruchi, helping her up. He has a hollow. It threw me out of his mindscape. She rasped, feeling like she had just been trampled. They looked over to Naruto, who was still in the lotus position, as blood slowly started to trickle from the corner of his left eye. Shit, he's making a mask, she said fearfully. What do we do now? Heinoa. Crawling rope. Yuruchi yelled, making a rope of pure energy entangle Naruto's arms, snaking down to the floor so he couldn't get up. We have to hope he can fight it, she said as she noticed blood also start to slowly trickle from his right eye, nose, and mouth, joining together with the blood from his left eye solidifying into his mask. XXXXXXXXXX Naruto's mindscape XXXXXXXXXX. W, what do you mean you're me? Naruto asked his doppelganger. Don't pretend you don't know. I'm the voice you've always shut out so that you could play the hero, the good guy, the sap that always forgives everyone. Naruto gave a somewhat guilty look to his doppelganger. Deep down, he had always known about the voice of his other self that he had always shut out. I just didn't want to prove them right, he whispered, deep down knowing that was a lie. His doppelganger laughed at his reply. Quit fooling yourself. It didn't matter what you would have done back in that village, and you know it. To them you were always a demon, and always will be. It doesn't matter anymore, because I'm no longer a member of that damned village. Oh, but it does. You have a chance to get the revenge that you've always wanted. Revenge? I don't want revenge. Don't try to lie to me. I'm you, remember. I don't have to stand here and listen to this, Naruto said as he turned around to leave. His doppelganger sighed heavily. Looks like we're going to have to do this the hard way. He blurred right in front of Naruto, swiftly punching him in the chest, sending him crashing hard into the bars of Kyuubi's cage, where he bounced off, landing face first into the pool of Kyuubi blood and chakra. Naruto slowly got up, glaring at his doppelganger, wiping off the blood from his face. He then yelled as he rushed himself in anger, raising his fist, throwing a right hook, which his doppelganger quickly sidestepped, kneeing Naruto in the gut, making him fall to one knee, clutching his stomach. Why the hell are you being so damn difficult? You know everything I said is true. I cough. Don't want revenge, I just want to move on with my life and forget about that damn village. Naruto spat, slowly standing back up. Oh, but how can you forget everything that damn place did to you? All the beatings, the betrayal of your precious people. Naruto's eyes shut tightly as he covered his ears with his hands, shaking his head from side to side, trying to desperately shut out his doppelganger's words. Shut up, shut up, shut up, he bellowed, not wanting to remember. No, I don't think so. Not this time. You need to face the past, his doppelganger said, appearing behind Naruto, twisting his arm behind his back and kicking him in the back of his knees, forcing him to the ground, grabbing his forehead, forcing him to look straight ahead as a mirror formed. Look at it. Look at what they've done to you, to us, the doppelganger yelled. The mirror started to fog up, then dissipated as a vision of one of Naruto's earliest memories appeared. First reflection. A then 2.5-year-old Naruto was sitting at a small desk scribbling into a scroll. He was upset that Sarutobi-san wouldn't tell him anything about the man that had called him son in his memories, saying he would tell him when he's older. Naruto, I have someone I'd like you to meet. This is Jiraiya, and he'd like to see your seal. A voice inside Naruto's mind was screaming not to do it, but he figured Sarutobi-san wouldn't let anything happen, so he stood up, lifted his shirt, and channeled chakra into the seal, showing it to the strange-looking old man, who started to examine it. Suddenly, the tips of Jiraiya's fingers started to glow with blue chakra. Gogyufian. 5-element seal, he said, slamming his fingers into Naruto's stomach. Ah! A young Naruto screamed. Why, Sarutobi-san, why? He whispered right before he passed out. And first reflection. See, I tried to warn you, but would you listen, no? You see, they had to cut off the Kyuubi chakra before they could place the suppression seal on you. Naruto's heart ached at the memory of Sarutobi's betrayal. XXXXXXXXXX Fugai and XXXXXXXXX. The blood had finally solidified into the elongated shape of a mask covering Naruto's face. Then it started to turn from the color of his blood into a solid jet black reflective color with 2 narrow slits for eyes. All Orihime and Yuruchi could do was stare in awe as the mask reflected everything in the room perfectly. Everything that is except the 2 of them. Yuruchi-san. Yeah, Orihime. Why is his mask reflecting everything in the room but us? Suddenly, from within the solid, dark, black, narrow slits of the mask, two glowing cerulean, slitted eyes formed looking at the women maliciously. XXXXXXXXXX Naruto's mindscape XXXXXXXXXX. All the times your classmates would make fun of you. Naruto no baka, loser, dobi. All the times parents would tell their kids not to play with you. Zenon-chan. The boy's mother said, grabbing his arm to take him away. I don't want you playing with that thing, it's dangerous. Always behind everyone else. All the times you failed. All because you didn't heed my warning, choosing to listen to that old team, bastard. Naruto was struggling to get free, but couldn't. Why are you in such a rush to get free? We're getting to the best part. Second reflection. A then 5-year-old Naruto was running for his life as a group of drunks were chasing after him, throwing their sake bottles at his small form. Come back here, Kyubi, brat, you know if you run you'll only get it worse. One of the drunks bellowed behind him. Why are you chasing me? I didn't do anything wrong. He yelled back at them, wanting nothing more than to be left alone. He accidentally bumped into a woman as he had turned a corner into an alley. Oof, Naruto rasped as he ran into a woman with long purple hair. Oh, are you okay, kid? She asked, concerned as she started to bend over to help him up, but then stopped when she saw who he was. Oh, it's you, she hissed. Watch where the hell you're going, you little demon shit. The drunks had finally caught up to Naruto. Why you Gogo-san? One of the drunks stuttered, fearing what the Jounin was going to do to them for attacking the boy. I'll tell you what, boy, since it's October 10th, and I'm in a good mood, I'll just take a little walk. She said, looking into Naruto's big blue eyes as they silently pleaded for her not to leave him alone with them. If the little demon shit here were to have an accident and get a little banged up, I'm sure no one would care, she said as she walked off, leaving Naruto alone with the drunks. Well, looks like it's time for your beating, Kyubi. With that, horrible screams could be heard from the alley as Naruto was kicked, punched, and spat upon. 2 days later, he woke up in the hospital with the Sandame next to him as he slowly came to. Why do they keep attacking me, G-san? He asked with tears in his eyes. For the life of him, he just couldn't understand it. I wish I knew, Naruto-kun. Eventually it will get better, you just have to give them more time, they will eventually accept you. In second reflection. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Lied right to your face, tell the truth, don't you just want to rip his old heart out and eat it? His doppelganger said amusedly. Third reflection. Naruto sat on a swing all alone, having just failed his exam for the 3rd time. It seemed no matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't perform any of the jutsu right. Look, one parent said to another. The demon failed again. What do you expect? After all, demons aren't very smart, the other woman said, amused. Naruto wondered what she meant by demon. Should you know the law? Be careful what you say in front of it, another parent said as she joined the conversation while looking at Naruto in disgust. Later on, Mizuki had told Naruto that there was another way to graduate, by stealing the scroll of sealing. He had even learned one of the jutsu, Tajuu Kage Bunshin. Eventually, Mizuki had let slip why the village had always hated him. Naruto was furious that such a thing was hidden from him, so in a fit of rage, he performed Tajuu Kage Bunshin and used his clones to beat Mizuki to death. It was his first kill. He dropped the scroll and just walked back to his apartment as Irika looked on in horror. Later, after the Hokage had heard what had happened, he sent Anbu to bring him to his office where he was informed that he was being promoted. He took the Hitayate, forehead protector. In hindsight, though, Naruto now realized that it was only to make him an official ninja of Konohagakure, so he wouldn't be able to leave. And third reflection. I can't believe you forgave the old team for not telling you about why the village hated you, the doppelganger said, shaking his head. You should have known he was hiding other things from you. Maybe it was an effect of the suppression seal. XXXXXXXXXX Fugai and XXXXXXXXXX. Orihime and Yoruichi were both panting heavily. Even with Yoruichi channeling Ryatsu, spiritual energy, into Orihime's shield, they were still barely keeping Naruto from getting out. You weren't kidding when you said he could surpass you. Man, he's strong. I can't believe his mask is still on after a full minute, she said as they kept channeling everything they had to keep him from breaking out. XXXXXXXXXX Naruto's mindscape XXXXXXXXXX. Face facts, no one cares for us. None of our so-called precious people ever cared. Hell, I doubt we ever really had any friends. Face it, we have no one worth fighting for. Just give up on being a damn hero. Forget the good fight. Let us have the revenge we deserve. Naruto stopped struggling as realization hit. That's not true. There are people worth fighting for, just none in that village. Oh really, who? The doppelganger hissed, narrowing his eyes and tightening his grip. The Sand siblings. They always treated me with respect. They helped treat my injuries. Gaara helped me get all the way back to the village. Temari helped clean my wounds and bandaged me up. Then there's Tazuna, Tsunami, and Inari. They never judged me, even when they found out about Kyuubi after the battle on the bridge. Naruto spat, finally having enough. He started to stand up, ignoring the pain in his twisted arm. He swiftly spun around, striking his doppelganger in the nose with an open palm strike to the face, making him stumble backwards. Why, you little shit? He spat, holding his nose as blood trickled out. The doppelganger noticed Naruto take a fighting stance. Well, look who grew a pair. He spat, wiping the blood from his nose as he too took a fighting stance. Shut the hell up and fight, Naruto hissed. With that, they both let out a battle cry as they rushed each other. Naruto caught his doppelganger's fist as he had thrown a vicious punch, but was forced to let go so he could block the doppelganger's knee as it sped towards his stomach. On the two Narutos fought. They stood across from each other, both panting, neither one really getting the advantage, both knowing what the other Naruto would do. They looked into each other's eyes in silent agreement. They both held out their hands, charging Rasengan's Naruto channeled chakra into his right hand, forming a blue swirling sphere, while his doppelganger charged Ryatsu in his left, forming a yellow sphere. They charged each other, then jumped into the air, slamming their Rasengans together, each Naruto fighting for dominance, neither willing to give in. Suddenly, the Rasengans started to merge, then their arms. Finally, they had both merged into one being. Naruto fell onto the ground exhausted. Then the doors to Kyuubi's prison chamber opened. XXXXXXXXXX Fugai and XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto had broken out of Orochima's shield. He stood there, his cerulean slitted eyes watching them through the slits in the jet black mask. They both took fighting stances, ready to fight for their lives, when suddenly his eyes stopped glowing, and he fell to his knees, his mask falling off of his face. The two women relaxed, watching as Naruto's now blue slitted eyes pulsed with sorrow and pain as the memories of his past finally came flooding back. Seeing his pain, Yoruichi rushed over, kneeling in front of him. She embraced him in a hug. It's okay, just let it out, the dark-skinned woman whispered. Naruto wrapped his arms around her, putting his head on her shoulder, and cried. He cried for the pain of the memories. He cried for the things he would have to do to win this war. But most importantly, he cried for the loss of his innocence. XXXXXXXXXX Konoha Hyuga Council Room, Hyuga Mansion XXXXXXXXXX. Hinata and Hanabi appeared before the Hyuga Council, and their father Hayashi. They both bowed as a show of respect. They glanced over to a corner in the room to see none other than Hinata-sensei, Kurenai, leaning against the wall, looking like she was deep in thought. I wonder what Kurenai-sensei is doing here, Hinata thought. Turning back to look at their father. You wish to see his father? The Hyuga heiress asked. Yes, I did. Please have a seat, he said as he gestured to the two chairs in front of them. It would appear that someone has broken into the Hyuga archives. The sisters both gasped in surprise. What all did they take, father? Hanabi asked. They stole a very important scroll, a scroll that could possibly lead to the truth about the Uchiha massacre, he said seriously. The truth about the massacre? I thought it was Itachi. Wasn't he the one behind the Uchiha massacre? Hinata asked, confused. With your permission, Hayashi-sama? Kurenai asked as she left the corner of the room to go stand in front of the Hyuga sisters. Of course, Kurenai-san, the Hyuga head replied. You see, it was not actually Itachi who wiped out his clan, it was members of the Hyuga main branch, and I who were led by your mother Nozomi, means hope. Flashback. Kurenai and Nozomi were crouched on a rooftop just outside the Uchiha compound with a small elite team, which consisted of 10 to 15 Hyuga main branch members scattered all around the perimeter. This is Sparrow to Falcon. Over, an undercover agent said through his communicator. This is Falcon report. Over, Nozomi replied. The package has been dispersed. It should have already been absorbed in their lungs. All the alarms have been deactivated. Give it 5 minutes before you begin. Over. Understood. We'll take it from here. Over. Night Watch, are you in position? Over. she said to the 4 lookouts that were staged at strategic positions just outside the Uchiha compound, so they could warn the team if anyone entered the area. "Hi, night watch in position. Over," each replied. "All right, you all know the plan. With the powder they breathed into their lungs, they shouldn't be able to use their Sharingan for at least 10 minutes. That's our window. We move in fast and quietly, no fancy moves, just quick kills. And remember, use your katanas instead of juken strikes, so the attack won't be traced to us. Got it?" Nozomi ordered. "Hi," they all replied. She looked over and whispered to the woman beside her. "Kurenai, you're with me." "Hi," the red-eyed Kunoichi replied to her friend. 10 minutes later, Nozomi gave the order. With that, the Hyuga activated their Byakugan and began their assault on the Uchiha. The Hyuga had the advantage. With their Byakugan activated, they had a 359-degree view of the Uchiha district. They could see through houses and buildings, getting the jump on their targets long before they knew they were coming. The teams ran through at blistering speeds, killing their enemies quickly, making sure to use standard katanas instead of juken strikes. Nozomi had struck Mikoto in the stomach with her fist, making her spit up blood as Kurenai held her arms. "Why did you give info to Kumo all those years ago about my daughter?" Nozomi asked. Mikoto looked at the Hyuga, hatred shone in her black eyes, but said nothing. "Come on, we know all about it. Before you die with the rest of your traitorous clan, you will tell me why," Nozomi said as she walked over, opening a drawer, pulling out a kitchen knife. Mikoto watched as the silver metal glistened before her eyes as Nozomi slashed her right cheek. She then went on to slash Mikoto all over until she told her why. "Falcon, this is Night Watch 1. The Uchiha brat has entered the compound and is headed in your direction. Over." "Understood. Well, it looks like your son's coming home. We'll have to give him a proper welcome." Makoto's eyes widened. "No, don't kill Sasuke-chan, please." Nozomi chuckled. "We're not going to kill him. He's our cover. You see, Kurenai is going to use a powerful genjutsu to make your son think his brother wiped out the clan. What better witness than the last loyal Uchiha?" With that, she stabbed Mikoto in the heart, killing her. "Mom, I'm home," a 7-year-old Sasuke said happily as he walked through the front door. He then walked into the kitchen, where Kurenai instantly grabbed his throat with her right hand, shoving him into a wall. Then the Genjutsu mistress made a series of one-handed seals with her left hand, engulfing the child in her new Genjutsu. "No, stop it. Stop it. Why, Itachi? Why?" he yelled as Kurenai made him see his family being slaughtered over and over. After a couple of minutes, Sasuke stopped struggling and just stared blankly into space as drool spilled down the right side of his mouth. "Looks like we're done here," the red-eyed Kunoichi said, letting the boy go. "This is Falcon. All right, let's wrap this up. Everyone back to the compound," Nozomi ordered. In flashback. But what about the Mangekyo Sharingan? You see, a week before the massacre, the Uchiha had found out that Uchiha Shursui was a traitor, so they ordered Itachi to kill him. We assume that's how he got it. Anyway, he abandoned the village, leaving his clan in disgust. An elder spoke up. "Why weren't we told about this before?" Hinata asked. "After your mother died a couple years later, I thought it best not to tell either of you. Anyway, we're currently interrogating each of the branch members to see if they had anything to do with this," Hayashi replied. "Even Niji?" Hanabi asked, worried about her cousin. "Everyone in the branch, including your cousin Niji. We have to find out who stole the scroll as soon as possible," Hayashi said. "Why would the Uchiha give Kumo information on our clan anyway?" Hanabi asked. "The traitorous scum gave them information in exchange for money and jutsu," another elder spat. "Hinata, I want you to use your connections en route to find out if Danzo or other members of the council may have had anything to do with the theft. Please be discreet," Hayashi ordered. "Hi, father," Hinata said as they ended the meeting. Chapter 8. A new Kazekage and an old enemy. XXXXXXXXXX Sunagakure no Sato, village hidden among sand. XXXXXXXXXX. Chiyo and her brother Ebizu were overseeing the council meeting, which had erupted into furious arguments over who Chiyo had suggested as the Godame Kazekage. "You can't be serious. We can't have that demon as our Kazekage," a council member yelled, slamming his fist on the table. "He's right. Why give the demon that kind of power anyway?" Another councilman agreed. "Look, I understand your objections, but really, do you have any better ideas? In case you haven't noticed, we are severely weakened after being tricked by that damn Sannin Orochimaru. Never could trust any of the Sannin. Anyway, we need a strong Kage to lead the village, and we need one now. Chio responded. With all due respect, Chio-sama, what about his mental condition? He has been known to go on homicidal rampages in the past. Well, that's the thing, he hasn't gone on any rampages since the invasion, and he's actually getting along with his siblings. I believe it has something to do with his fight with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Ebizu answered for her. Yes, a fight in which Gaara-sen lost badly. The Leaf has a much stronger weapon than we do. That seems to no longer be the case. Seems their weapon has abandoned them. Chio said, amused that the Leaf would let their weapon simply walk away. Wait, are you sure? Is there any way we could find him? Maybe convince him to join Sand? A council member asked hopefully. Just imagine what having two weapons could do for our standing amongst the other villages, especially when one is as strong as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Another council member chimed in. No, we have no way of knowing what his current location might be, but we do know he's friends with the former Kazakage's children. That's the next best thing. Ebizu said, hoping to play on their want for power. And I think that it might be to our advantage in the event that we have another war. I mean, can you imagine how beneficial having a weapon that strong as a friend of our Kage would be? Chio said, following her brother's lead. Wait, you said that he was friends with all three of them. Why not just choose Temari or Kankuro, since they're also friends with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki? A councilwoman asked, hoping one of them would do instead of the demon. Well, there are two reasons. One, Gaara is the strongest ninja in the village when you add in Shikaku. And two, it would be nice to rub Konoha and my old enemy Tsunade's face in the fact that we still have our weapon while they lost theirs. Are you sure those are the only reasons? Is it not possible that you may feel guilty about sealing Shikaku into Gaara all those years ago? How dare you question my sister's motives? She's done more for Suna than all of you combined. Ebizu shouted, slamming his fist on the table as he stood in defense of his sister. It's all right, brother, she said as reaching up to put her hand on his shoulder, making him sit back down. They have every right to ask about my motives. It's true that in my old age from time to time I regret the horrible life the boys had because of what I've sealed into him. But I can assure you that at the end of the day Suna comes first, and always will. Well said, Chio-sama. Say we do accept Gaara-san as the next Kazakage. What are you saying? A younger councilwoman who had hated Gaara for years started, but was silenced by the senior councilman's intense glare. As I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted. What of his lack of knowledge of politics, as well as the people? Do you think they can accept a demon Kazakage? Chio smiled. She and her brother were starting to win them over. Well, as far as politics, I and my brother will act as his advisors. We will counsel him on the other shinobi nations as well. As for the people, they will eventually learn to accept it. Let us not forget the last time we picked a Kazakage we took too long, and as a result it cost us. This time we should move quickly. Ebizu said, looking around the room as many of the councilmen and women were nodding in agreement. XXXXXXXXXX Food Market Business District of Suna XXXXXXXXXX. Temari and her brother Kankuro were talking as she purchased various vegetables and other food items for a dinner she planned to fix for herself and her brothers. I can't believe Gaara's changed so much, she said, grateful that she can actually spend time with him without fear of being killed now that he no longer seems to suffer from his psychotic rages. Yet, can you believe it? He even talked with me the other day about proving himself to the village, said he wanted to be more than just a weapon, and one day maybe even being liked and respected enough to be the Kazakage. He said with his chest puffed out, proud of his brother. While he wants to help the village, I thought after hearing about Naruto's departure from the Leaf, he would go back to the way he used to be. She shuddered, remembering the way they used to live in constant fear of him. How is he taking Naruto's departure anyway? He's sad that his friend left, but he understood his decision. Temari slightly narrowed her brown eyes as she remembered the way the blonde Jinchuriki had to live back in the Leaf. I can't believe the way they treated him. I'm surprised he didn't go crazy and kill them all. I know that I would have. Yeah, I know what you mean, I would have as well. XXXXXXXXXX Random Ali Suna XXXXXXXXXX. Stop, please, no, don't. A woman yelled as one of the Suna Chunin tried to force himself on her while another held her son hostage. Look, calm down, or my friend here might just decide to snap your boy's neck. Hell, you might even like it, he said with an evil smile. No, get off my mommy, her son yelled, then bit the hand of the man holding him. Ouch, why, you little shit, he yelled, slapping the child into some garbage cans. Botan. His mother yelled, reaching out her hand as her son stayed next to the dented cans on the ground, cowering in fear of being hit again. Now where were we? He said, turning back to the horrified woman who could only shut her eyes, preparing for the worst. They both heard a whooshing sound come from behind them, making the Chunin turn to see what it was. He was terrified by what he saw. There at the opening of the alley, standing next to the now crushed corpse of his fellow Chunin and partner in crime with his gourd uncorked, was none other than the Shikaku Jinchuriki, Sabaka no Gara. The demon, oh god, he's going to kill us all. The Chunin screamed, but before he could get up to run, Gara's sand had formed a ball around him, lifting his body into the air above the woman. Sabaka Soso. Desert funeral, the redhead said coldly as his sand imploded, crushing the man and raining his blood everywhere. Mommy, Botan yelled as he ran toward his mother, who was on the ground, giving her a big hug. Thank you, Gara-san, the woman said gratefully, but with a hint of fear as she stood up, having been splattered with her attacker's blood. What's going on here? A Jounin yelled as he came upon the scene, with several villagers close behind. Oh god, he's gone mad and killed 2 people, and was about to attack that poor woman and her son, a villager said. No, these 2 ninja were trying to assault me when Garrison saved me and my son. Tell me, is it common practice for our ninja to attack their own people? She asked, glaring at the Jounin, who heard murmurs of disgust coming from some in the crowd. No, I assure you, ma'am, it is not. Thank you for killing these criminals, Gara. The Jounin said grudgingly, as he never liked the demon. He knew that he would have to report this incident to the council. Just then the kid ran up and grabbed Gara's hand, making the villagers and Jounin gasp. Thank you for helping me and my mom, Mr. Sandman, the child said, looking up at Gara with a bright smile. The crowd was shocked. Here was this kid holding the demon's hand, and he didn't kill him. What was even more amazing is what Gara did next. You're welcome, the Jinchuriki said in his usual monotone voice, leaving in swirl of sand. Did you see that? A woman asked. Yeah, he saved that woman. Hell, he even let that kid touch him. Maybe he's not so bad after all. With that, many of the villagers dispersed, some having greater respect for the young Jinchuriki. No doubt many will tell their friends and families what they had witnessed this day. XXXXXXXXX open grass field just outside Fire Country. XXXXXXXXX. Naruto, Orihime, and Yoruichi in her cat form had just crossed the border. It had been over about 2 months since Naruto had merged with his hollow and gained his mask. It was good to know that there were at least 2 people in the world that would back him no matter what. Flashback, 2 months ago. Naruto had left the inn and was walking around the village. It had been 2 days since he had broken down and cried. Up until then, he had never realized how much his life in Konoha had affected him. He would always bury his pain and hide behind his pranks and idiotic jokes. He sighed as he stopped at a granite marble fountain in the center of the village. He was able to find some solace in watching the water as it cascaded down from the top through the 3 different levels, pooling at the bottom. Leaning over with his elbows resting on the edge, he looked at his reflection and sighed. So this is where you were hiding? He heard the now familiar voice of Orihime ask. Yeah, I just needed to go for a walk, clear my head. She walked over and stood next to the blonde, watching their reflections as the water made waves in the pool at the bottom. Naruto, what's wrong? Orihime asked, concerned. Naruto tried to put on one of his patented fake smiles. Nothing's wrong. He tried to lie, but was silenced by her glare. Naruto, if we're going to be a team, then you're going to have to stop the damn fake smiles and trust me enough to tell me what's wrong. The usually kind-hearted girl snapped. The young Jinchuriki sighed. Well, I guess I'm just wondering. You knew my mother, right? Yeah, I spent 5 years mastering my powers and fighting demons with her. And Yoruichi-san, why? I've been wondering. What do you think she would think of me? Do you think she would be disappointed in me abandoning Konoha the way I did? Orihime snorted. Disappointed? Hell, she probably would have single-handedly burned Konoha to the ground for doing what they did to you. She always did have one hell of a mean streak. Naruto gave a small smile to her for easing one of his fears, but there was still one thing weighing heavily on his mind. I don't think I should continue to travel with you, or Yoruichi. Even though for the time being Konoha has left me alone, they might still try to come after me. You two would be in constant danger. Look, Naruto, I appreciate the thought, but Yoruichi and I have faced much worse than a simple hidden village. Trust me, we can take care of ourselves. You're going to be fighting in a whole different league soon. Trust me, if Konoha comes after you, we'll back you all the way, even if it means destroying that damn place. Yeah, we'll be there fighting by your side, no matter what. Yoruchi said, walking up to the other side of Naruto. Come on, Gaki, kid. I have to teach you how to call upon your Ryatsu, spiritual energy, so you can travel through the gates. We need to go to a better training spot, a safe haven from prying eyes. She said seriously. In flashback. Well, kid, Yoruchi said, time to see if the Ryatsu training paid off. With that, Naruto focused his Ryatsu, making sure to separate it from his chakra and Yukai. He then performed the one-handed seals Yoruchi had shown him. Suddenly, a glowing yellow point appeared right in front of him, which stretched into a thin line and opened up into a glowing yellow doorway. Good job, Naruto, now follow me. And remember, only use Ryatsu when going through this particular gate. The feline said as she ran through the doorway, followed by Orihime, then Naruto as the doorway closed behind him. Naruto was amazed as they ran through the long white tunnel, but something was worrying him. Yoruchi, why is the tunnel collapsing in on itself behind us? Don't worry, it's just an added security measure to keep enemies from following us through this particular gate. Wow, I had forgotten how freaky this gate was. It's been a long time since I've used a gate. Orihime chimed in. We're almost at the end, brace yourselves. Brace ourselves for what? Just then Naruto noticed they were no longer in the tunnel, but were in mid-air. What the wo? Naruto stuttered as he lost his balance and fell toward the ground face first with a loud thud, kicking up sand everywhere. For that, Yoruchi's sweat dropped as she and Orihime looked down at Naruto, who was crumpled in a heap in the sand. He pulled his head out of the sand and slowly got up on all fours, looking up at the two who were just standing in the middle of the sky like it was nothing. How the hell are you two doing that? The blonde asked in astonishment. They both started to walk down to him, as if they were walking down a flight of invisible stairs. We are using our Ryatsu as cushions to stay in the air. I didn't think you would just stop using it as soon as you left the tunnel. She said, slightly annoyed. Well, I guess I kinda got freaked out what with coming out the other side in the middle of the sky and all. He said sarcastically. For the first time, he had gotten a good look at his surroundings and stood up, mouth agape. This was one of the most amazing places he had ever seen. The clear night sky was illuminated by a large crescent moon. Then he slowly spun around, noticing that he was surrounded by white sand as far as the eye could see, except for a small white house, which was next to a crystal blue lake. What is this place? Yoruchi changed from her cat form. This place is called Hueco Mundo, which was once the home of a group of beings called Hollows, which haven't used this dimension in quite some time. No one seems to know what happened to them, but it will do just fine for our purposes. And that would be simple. In 8 months' time, we are going to go and rescue your third and final teammate. Flashback. Yoruchi had just left Naruto at the Valley of the End when she stopped, having just felt a familiar presence. Then looking over, she noticed a pair of Shinigami, soul collectors, floating around in a circle as if they were beckoning her to follow. Kikyo, I wonder what she wants. Yoruchi thought as she went to follow them. She quickly arrived at a small meadow where she changed into her human form. Long time no see, Kikyo. So why have you sent your Shinigami for me? I know you plan on gathering a team to fight the good fight, and also that you want to gather all the Shirkan jewel shards. My, aren't you well informed? Yoruchi said, wondering how the woman knew so much about her plans. Don't sound so surprised, Yoruchi. I am a Shinto priestess after all. Anyway, you will need someone to help you locate the jewel shards, as well as fight the demons. So are you offering to join the fight? Me? Hardly. What I am here to do is tell you about someone who could possibly help you. Her name is Kagome. She is a young Miko, shaman woman. I assure you she is almost as powerful as I, but retrieving her will not be an easy task. Oh, do tell. So let me get this straight, you expect us to somehow break into Kagura's castle in Udon no Kuni, land of Udon, fight off several dozen, possibly hundreds of her demon nin, break this Kagome out, and escape without said powerful demoness, or her nin ripping us apart. Tell me, if this Kagome is so important to you, then why won't you help us? We would have a much higher chance of saving her with your help. I have no intention of fighting in yet another in a long line of pointless noble wars. I merely came here to inform you of a possible ally in your fight against Kagura, nothing more. I care not what happens to Kagome. Kikyo said coldly as her Shinigami encircled her, carrying her into the sky, where she disappeared. What a strange woman. But if she's telling the truth, this Kagome could be a powerful member of Naruto's team. Looks like I'll have to convince him to leave earlier than I had originally planned. She thought as she turned to head to Konoha, hoping that he would be willing to leave this time. In flashback. Alright, let me show you two to your rooms. We'll get started with your training tomorrow. XXXXXXXXXXX Konoha back of Ichiraku Ramen XXXXXXXXXX. Exquisite. With the new Shirkan jewel I now have in my possession, this new body will last me quite a while. I am said as her hands slowly roamed her body while she looked into the full-length mirror. When she stopped to take a look at the decapitated head of her new container's father Tucci, then at what was left of her previous container's rotting husk. It's always such an amazing experience whenever I try on a new body, she thought as she took off her white bandana, stroking her new soft brown hair. She was taken out of her musings when the back door opened, revealing a tall silver-haired Jounin whose lower part of his face was covered by a face mask with his Hittite forehead protector covering his left eye. So have you planted the alchemy scroll so the boy could find it? Kakashi morphed into the form of a tall young man with long dark green spiky hair, with a black top and matching pair of skirts, crossed between skirt and shorts. Of course, Dante, he replied to his mother. This was quite the elaborate plan, having me impersonate that bridge builder's daughter and kill their Jounin sensei back in Wave and assume his identity. I thought our plans were ruined when the brat went and got himself stripped of his rank and his Tenketsu sealed, basically ruining his Sharingan. Haven't I always told you have a backup plan? Anyway, this way works out better for us. He will find the scroll showing him how to bring his mother back by performing alchemy. I trust that you as his sensei will help him achieve his goal, and once he brings her back, we will have our new homunculus, Wrath, and have the Mangekyo Sharingan under our control, and I can finally eliminate Soifin and our wayward homunculi Lust and Sloth. Yes, they will pay for their betrayal. Envy agreed. Chapter 9. Harsh Truths and Akatsuki found? XXXXXXXXXX Hueco Mundo XXXXXXXXXX. Yoruichi sat atop the roof of the small white house, staring into the crystal blue lake, which as always was illuminated by the ever-present crescent moon, deep in thought. She had been sitting there for at least an hour, not only contemplating Naruto and Orochima's training and their eventual rescue attempt of their final teammate Kagome, but also her choice to make Naruto team leader. I truly believe they will be able to work well as a team, but still I do have some lingering doubts about whether or not he can forget about his childish Nindo and do what has to be done. How far is he truly willing to go to win this war? Is he willing to kill not only his enemies, but his enemies' allies as well? Most importantly, though, she thought while resting her hands on her knees, should I give him his mother's Zanpakuto? Soul-cutting sword. After all, it is his birthright. There's no question about his ability to use the weapon. I know will be able to wield it, but would Mugen accept him as his owner after losing Kushina? She paused, contemplating what Mugen's reaction to Kushina's son would be. For him and his team to survive and win this war, I will have to drive them into the ground. I have to teach him to be a good leader by not only teaching him combat, but also strategy and tactics. The same way I taught Soifin, she always was such a good student. She thought somewhat bitterly about her old apprentice, considering that some of the very strategies she used to eliminate the Shiba clan, kill her friends, and destroy Whirlpool were learned from her. Sighing, the purple-haired woman leapt off of the roof to go and wake them. Come on, Naruto, it's morning time to get up. Today's the day we start your training. The dark-skinned woman said, tapping her right foot, glaring at the lazy blonde. Wah. Oh yeah, Yoruichi, I'm up. I expect you downstairs in the kitchen in 20 minutes. Your new clothes are in the chair over there, she said, turning to leave. Naruto stood in front of the full-length mirror, admiring his new cloths. He now wore a white sleeveless coat with a high collar that stretched all the way down to his knees. Think Tozen's Hueco Mundo coat from Bleach, with matching shinobi pants that were wrapped at the ankles with bandages and black ninja sandals. He looked over to the small dresser, noticing a pair of long black fingerless gloves and silver forearm bracers, like the ANBU wear, with weird designs etched on them, which he quickly put on as he headed downstairs to the small kitchen. Well, I hope you made plenty, because I'm really hungry. The blonde stopped dead in his tracks, his mouth slightly agape as he saw Orochima's new clothes. She wore a white sleeveless overdress with a keyhole insert that had black trim, a wide black belt over a long white skirt with a matching long-sleeve jacket that had a cape attached. Basically her Hueco Mundo outfit. Is something wrong? Do I have something on my face? You look like Intenshi. Angel, he said, making Orihime blush before they both took their seats at the table. Then breaking their chopsticks apart, they paused for a moment to look at the delicious food, which consisted of a bowl of rice, miso, soup, and a fillet of grilled salted salmon as they all began to eat. Naruto. Yoruichi sighed as she leaned back, closing her golden eyes. How many people do you think you will have to kill to win this war? Naruto sputtered, almost choking on his water. What? You heard me. How many people are you willing to kill to win this war? Yoruichi, I'm not so sure that this is the right time to discuss T-dash. Orihime was silenced by her friend's raised hand. No, he has to hear this. Naruto, this isn't some sort of game where you get to be the plucky hero who can save everyone without getting any blood on your hands. This is war, the good fight. You will have to kill people, not only direct enemies, but also their direct and indirect allies. You do know that. That may include women and children, she said, looking at him sternly. I know, he whispered, not making eye contact. To save the world, Naruto, you and your team may wind up having to destroy most of it. Not to mention, as leader, your teammates' lives will rest on the decisions you make. Don't you think I know that? He yelled, slamming his fist on the table, finally making eye contact as they stared at each other for almost a minute. Believe me, Yoruichi, I know. We might as well begin your training, Yoruichi said after a few moments of uncomfortable silence as the three got up from the table to go outside. Wait, I thought you said it was morning. Shouldn't the sun be rising? He asked, noticing that it was still night and the crescent moon was still in the same spot in the sky. Oh, that's right, I never told you Hueco Mundo is covered in perpetual darkness, Yoruichi replied as if it was nothing. So we're going to be training in darkness? No, we won't be training here. We'll be training at the training grounds below Hueco Mundo, the dark-skinned woman said as they stopped in front of the crystal blue lake. Now, Naruto, I want you to follow Orihime and I onto the center of the lake, but instead of using chakra, I want you to use Ryatsu to walk on it, she said as they all walked to the center. Now I want you to use the second set of one-handed seals I showed you during your Ryatsu training outside of Fire Country. With that, all three of them performed the seals and began to sink into the water. Orihime noticed the concerned look on Naruto's face. Don't worry, Naruto, it's perfectly safe, she said, reassuring the blonde as their heads submerged underwater. Seconds later, their heads were rising from the water on the other side, where they stood on the water's surface once more. Welcome to Tengaku Kyokaku, Heaven Canyon, the purple-haired woman said as they walked off of the lake onto the rocky ground, which contained several trees and small boulders. Naruto stopped and looked around at the majestic scenery of the training spot, which was surrounded by two steep walls of granite cliffs. What surprised him most, though, was the clear blue daylight sky. Well, Naruto, the first thing we'll have to work on is your speed. We have to bring it up to mine and Orihime's level before we attempt anything else, the dark-skinned woman said, seriously, drawing his attention to her as she stood on a small boulder a few feet away. Speed? There's nothing wrong with my speed dash. But before the blonde could finish, Yoruichi flashed in front of his face with her usual chastised smile as she proceeded to punch and kick Naruto repeatedly. Orihime just stood there watching as her friend started hitting him faster and faster until they were both nothing more than blurs. She sighed as she saw him bounce off the ground, a beaten, bloodied mess, while Yoruichi landed right next to him with cat-like grace with his blood dripping off her fists. Naruto was dumbfounded. She had beaten him so badly in less than a few seconds. All he could do was look up at the woman, who in turn looked down at him coldly with her arms crossed in front of her chest as his eyes swelled rapidly. That's why you need to work on your speed. A person like Soifin could kill you in literally the blink of an eye, she said to him right before he passed out. The dark-skinned woman then gestured to Orihime to heal him so that they could begin his training. XXXXXXXXXX Udon no Kanai, land of Udon. XXXXXXXXX. Kagura sat on her throne in the throne room, tapping her razor-sharp claws on the armrest. The demoness was many things, but patient wasn't one of them. She had been losing her patience with the young Miko, shaman woman, Kagome, for some time now. As far as she was concerned, it was taking way too long to scry for the Akatsuki. There was no way simple ninjin humans were powerful enough to hide a jewel shard from a Miko. Damn ninjin, thinking they could play around with demons. What the hell were they thinking? I can't wait to wipe out every member of that damn organization. Maybe I should go check on their progress. Kagome might just need the proper motivation. She thought as she licked her blood-red lips at the prospect of torturing the poor girl once more. But before she could get up, her sister Kanna came in with her usual emotionless expression, demonic mirror in hand. "Sister, we have found a member of the Akatsuki," she said softly as she held up the mirror for her sister to see as it glowed, revealing a man whose face was completely covered except for his green eyes. He calls himself Kikazu. He appears to be headed for a bounty station in a small village just outside Kusa no Kuni, grass country, and according to the Miko, he considers himself to be immortal. Interesting, a ninjin who considers himself immortal. What do you say we test that theory? Kagura said with a wicked smile as she summoned two of her most powerful demon nin. Kagura-sama, they said in unison, kneeling before her. Torin, Karen, I would like you to accompany me to a small village outside of Kusa no Kuni. We're going to have a little fun with the pathetic ninjin and the village he's headed to. Of course, Kagura-sama, I as leader of the Panther Demons pledge our allegiance to you, Torin said to her mistress with utmost respect. Kanna, I wish you to stay here and find out more about the Kyubi Jinchuriki. Yes, sister, the white-haired girl said as her sister left with the Panther Demons in a swirl of black flames. Meanwhile, Kagome was held against the wall by the flaming shackles, sobbing as she remembered the death of her friends. Flashback. Inuyasha laid in the small cabin they had been hiding in for almost a day, and a half-clutching Tetsusaiga with his right hand. Kagome was growing concerned as he kept coughing up small amounts of blood before he had finally passed out. All the Miko could do for him was bandage his wounds and hope he pulled through. Somehow Naruto had learned about Inuyasha's transformation into his human form on the night of the full moon, so he used the opportunity to attack Kied's village while they slept. They had all put up a pretty good fight, but in the end there were just too many demons, so they had to run for it. Unfortunately, Kied and Shippo didn't make it. I swear, Inuyasha, I will protect you, Kagome said to her unconscious love as she watched him take pained, shallow breaths. She was getting restless. She couldn't just sit around and wait anymore, so she got up, threw her arrows over her left shoulder, and grabbed her bow before going to help her friends fight Naruto. Inuyasha should be safe here for the time being. I just hope Kagura can get back here with the sacred spear before Naruto kills us all, she thought, taking a deep breath, taking one last look at Inuyasha before pulling open the black curtain to leave. Time to finish this, Naruto, she hissed, her brown eyes narrowing dangerously before she set off in the direction of his demonic aura. Naruto in his baboon pelt was racing through the forests, being chased by a huge boomerang that had been forged from the bones of demons as it cut through the trees. Father Kahaku, tonight I will finally avenge our village, Sengo said as she caught her weapon while riding on Karara's back as the demon cat landed in front of Naruto, cutting off his escape. Naruto, she screamed, swinging the huge weapon at him, which he just jumped on and sprung off. Then he quickly moved to the side as the demon slayer swung it, trying to cut his head off. The weapon lodged into the tree as claws shot out from his pelt, knocking the demon slayer to the ground. Karara jumped onto his back, biting him, but the demon's body shot out poison. Karara, Sengo yelled as she pulled out her wakizashi, sidearm, chopping off two of his claws. Moroku, he's coming your way, she yelled, stopping to examine her fallen pet. But there was nothing she could do. Karara was dead. Damn you, Naruto. I've been waiting for this. Naruto, wind tunnel, the Hoshi, Buddhist monk, yelled as he unwrapped the strand of Japamala beads, releasing the purple cloth, sucking everything into the black void of his right hand. Samyosho, hell wasps, he said, surprised as Naruto's baboon pelt flew off, revealing the creatures. But it was too late. Before he could seal his hand, he had already sucked them in as he fell to the ground, writhing in pain. My how sad, Sengo, your pet and lover both dead by my hand, he said, his red eyes mocking her. You team, I'll kill you, she bellowed as she rushed him, blinded by rage, swinging her sword wildly. Then as she thrust the blade toward his face, he caught her arm, putting his right hand on her forearm and his left on her bicep, fending the wrong way at her elbow. Sango's inhuman scream echoed throughout the forest as her arm broke. Poor little thing, that must hurt, he said coldly. Go to hell, demon, she hissed through gritted teeth as she fell to her knees, holding her now useless arm. It's a shame this all has to come to an end, but I do have a half-breed to kill, he said as he grabbed her chin from behind and broke her neck. Now to find and finish you, Inuyasha, he said, standing over Sango's corpse before his arm and shoulder were blown off by a sacred arrow which was infused with spiritual powers. He turned to see Kagome, fury shone on her face, bow still in hand. You won't get the chance to find him because you will die here today. The dark-haired Miko hissed, pulling out another arrow, putting as much of her spiritual power into it as possible, this time shooting him in the chest. Got him, she thought as she watched the wound slowly expand. Then his whole body puffed up and expanded into a huge puffy mass as he exploded, knocking her to the ground, revealing a huge demonic spider. That must be his true form. I must have been crazy to think I could kill him alone. Where the hell is Kagura? She thought as she got up to run, but only made it a few feet before she twisted her ankle. Now, impudent wench, I will take great pleasure in killing you, Naruto hissed. I don't think so, a voice from above yelled, making them both look towards the sky. Kagura, he said to the demoness who stood atop a white feather with a strange spear with a crystal tip, which she aimed and threw right in the middle of the red markings on his back. What this can't be, he yelled as the spot she hit started to glow. His giant body burst into flame before exploding, sending Kagome flying into the air from the shock wave. Luckily, though, Kagura was able to swoop in before she hit the ground. It's over, he's finally dead, the dark-haired girl said as she looked at the demon spider's body parts scattered everywhere. Yes, there's nothing to stop me now, Kagura thought as they flew the air. Tell me, Miko, where is your lover? The demoness asked, wanting to eliminate him. Oh no, that's right, he's over there in the cabin. Take us down. Once they landed, Kagome limped toward the entrance with Kagura following close behind. The young Miko wasn't prepared for what she saw, though, as she pulled back the black curtain. Inuyasha, he's dead, we won, we finally won, she said as she limped over to his side, but something was wrong. Inuyasha, she said slowly, trying to wake him up. Inuyasha, she screamed when she realized he was dead, falling down next to him crying. Well, this is interesting. Looks like I don't have to kill him after all, the demoness said before grabbing the Miko's arms, throwing on the shackles. What the hell are you doing? Let me go, damn it, Inuyasha, she bellowed as Kagura took her away. In flashback. I'm so sorry, I wasn't strong enough to save you, she whispered, continuing to sob. XXXXXXXXXX, Sum no Kuni, Land of Claw, XXXXXXXXXX. A beautiful white-haired woman walked down the narrow cobblestone path, which led to a small building on the edge of the compound. She was deep in thought, having been ordered to scry for the Shurikon jewel shards. She had asked Soifin why they didn't just go after the one Orochimaru had, since they already knew where he was. Her only response was that her weapon would eventually search him out, and when he did, her spy Karen would inform her, and they would take him and the jewel shard at the same time. I just have to put up with following her orders until we can gather all of the Shurikon jewel shards. Once the jewel is whole again, I will simply steal it, then kill Soifin and the two homunculi. With that kind of power, I can finally have my revenge on Kikyo. Hell, not even Kagura would be able to stop me. But for now, I have to put up with Soifin's arrogance, she thought as her turquoise eyes pulsed in anger. She sighed as she came out of her thoughts, opening the door to a small darkened room inside the building. Denki o Tsukamasu. Turn on light, she said. Suddenly, the whole room was illuminated as the candles that were spread throughout the room lit up as she walked towards a counter that had 4 saucers filled with purified mamizu, fresh water, lined in a straight row to her left, with a vase of mystical herbs to her right, and square container that was slightly elevated with an open lip in the center. She grabbed each one of the saucers, pouring out the purified mamizu into the container. She then picked a single leaf and dropped it in the center. Her turquoise eyes watched intently as the mamizu rippled. Come to me, my Shikigami, the dark priestess commanded as a white demonic serpent materialized while slowly coiling around her body. Then, stretching her right arm out over the container of liquid, the serpent stretched out its upper body following her arm. Tsubaki grabbed its horned head, making its mouth open as she squeezed. Slowly, silver venom spilled from its fangs onto the leaf, turning it from green to silver, spreading from the leaf, turning all of the mamizu silver as well. Then, reciting an ancient spell, suddenly a bluish-green light surrounded her body as her scrying powers activated. XXXXXXXXXX, other side of the compound. XXXXXXXXXX. Lust was staring at the open locket that sat in her purple-gloved hand, a small tear falling down her pale cheek as she stared at the picture of her 2 sons, Edward and Alphonse Elric. I'm so sorry, my sons. I should have followed my motherly urge to save you. But I just let you both die. She thought as the bitter memories came flooding back. Flashback. Edward opened the huge doors of the mansion that rested on the edge of the ancient abandoned city that had been buried so long ago. What he saw completely shocked him. There in a magnificent white ballroom gown was Rose dancing to the beautiful music which was playing in the background. Edward, she greeted, looking at him through her now cold purple eyes. How nice of you to join me. I've been waiting for you. Rose, what are you doing here? Edward asked. I've been waiting for you, silly. She replied as she took his hand, and they started dancing. Edward, the first love you, she said, making the boy stop to look at her. Rose, I don't think you understand what you just said to me. Wait a second, something's wrong here, he said before hearing an infant's cries as the door to the adjacent room was opened, revealing the homunculus, Sloth, who was flanked by lust and envy as she held Rose's baby. Really, son, you couldn't give her one little dance? I thought I raised you better than that, Sloth said as she slightly bounced the newborn in her arms. Wait a second, where's Lyra? And what are you doing here with the homunculi? Then the pieces all fell into place. Wait, you're not Rose, you're Dante. It all makes sense now. The secret wars, the homunculi, the philosopher's stone. That's how you do it. You use the stone to transfer your soul into other people's bodies, the blonde said fearfully as he backed away from the pink-haired young woman. Well, Sloth, your son seems to be quite the detective, Dante said amusedly. Edward quickly slapped his hands together, then slammed them on the ground, summoning a spear which he quickly threw at her. But thinking quickly, she slapped her hands together and threw her right hand forward, sending out a beam of lightning, incinerating it. That was too close, she said angrily as her eyes narrowed. When did you see the gate? That's the only way you could transmute without a circle. So you found out, son of Hohenheim. So it's all true. Yes, it is, every last word. How many times have you jumped bodies? Well, in 400 years you tend to lose count. It's less than 10 after all. I had to use the philosopher's stone each time. Wait a minute, if you needed the stone each time you switch bodies, then, oh no, what have you done to my brother, you bitch? You're breaking my heart, Edward, talking to me this way. I was hoping to have been loved by the son of Hohenheim. Tell me where he is, now. Dead, I'm afraid. He and gluttony had to be sacrificed to complete the stone. I'll kill you, Edward bellowed as he slapped his hands together, forming a blade with his automail arm, running towards Dante, ready to cut her down. She slapped her hands together, summoning a huge rock beast which charged him, trying to eat him. But he jumped into the air onto its back, continuing to charge her as she jumped back, barely avoiding his blade in his anger. However, he had forgotten about the other homunculi in the room as envy came to his mother's aid, kicking him in the side of the head, sending him sprawling. Edward quickly got back up and charged envy, both falling to the floor, Edward chalking the homunculus with his right arm while punching him repeatedly with his left. Don't hurt me, Edward. Envy pretended to beg as he changed his face to look like Trisha Elric, which made Sloth recoil slightly. Don't mess with me, he yelled as he punched him again as Envy's face morphed into Dr. Marcho. Show me what you really look like instead of being a coward. You asked for it, Envy yelled, revealing his true form, causing Edward to stop mid-punch, his body trembling. What's wrong? I thought you wanted to see. Envy was the very first homunculi, created by Hohenheim almost 400 years ago, the result of the failed human transmutation of our son, who died of mercury poisoning. I suppose you could say that Envy was once your brother, Dante said. But then he abandoned me, started fresh, his perfect wife and kids. Needless to say, I never did like being replaced, he said as he punched a hole through Edward's body. He kicked Edward's bloodied body off of his fist and got into a kneeling position, looking over at Sloth with a wicked smile. Well, Sloth, looks like both of your team, bastard, sons as are dead. All Lust could do was watch as blood spilled from Edward's body, his eyes wide open, forever frozen in shock. In flashback, she came out of her memories as she heard a knock at the door. What the hell is it? She spat. Well, someone's in a bad mood today, Lust said mockingly as she opened the door to Sloth's room. What the hell are you doing here? Just get to the damn point. Fine, Soichan wishes to see us. Why do you insist on mocking and antagonizing Soifan-sama? Simple pissing lowly humans off amuses me, that's why. She's not simply a human, she's a Shinigami. If you're not careful, she may eventually decide to just kill you. Remember, Shinigami can summon the gates after all. Tell me, Sloth, why do you insist on being so damn loyal to her? She killed Dante and her team, bastard, son. That's all the reason I need now. Let's go see what our mistress wants. They entered the main living hall of the main house, where Soifun and Tsubaki were waiting on them. You sent for us, Soifun-sama? Sloth asked, bowing slightly. Yes, Tsubaki has located 2 Akatsuki members with jewel shards in Amige-kura no Sato, village hidden in rain. I want you 3 to go to the village and retrieve those jewel shards. I will also be sending some of my nin with you, she said as she pulled out her kodachi, short sword, and tapped it on the ground. Suddenly 40 nin materialized. I want you 3 to get the shards, and I want everyone else to destroy the village. I don't want any witnesses. Now go. She ordered as they disappeared into several black vortexes.